Chapter 81. What Yun Jian did not know was that before Yuan Ingjun, who stayed in Xinjiang town, could play his dirty tricks on her, Yun Jian had already transferred to another school. Reality proved that when Yuan Ingjun heard that Yun Jian had transferred to another school without a word, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He watched as his meticulously planned plan went down the drain. Of course, this was a story for another time. At this moment, Yun Jian was carrying her daily necessities. She did not have much and was walking toward her new school with relaxed and happy steps. Looking up at the entrance of number 1 high school, a red plaque was erected above the school gate, Dragon Gate number 1 high school. Dragon Gate number 1 high school was the school's full name that people often talked about. Yun Jian was a transfer student and had joined the school midway, so she reported to the principal's office as soon as she arrived at the new school. Principal Zhang was a middle-aged man with a square face. He sat upright and still, looking like a solemn and strict teacher. Since Yun Jian was introduced by Dong Ruan, and Dong Ruan was a high-ranking official in the city's education bureau, Principal Zhang's attitude toward Yun Jian carried a hint of flattery. He even arranged Yun Jian to be in the best class in Year 3. Year 3, Class A. Every grade here was divided into classes by alphabets. For example, Class A, B, C, D. Of course, the students who were able to enter number 1 middle school were either from wealthy families or had excellent academic results. The students in Class A of each grade were either the most well-off or the most outstanding in this group. Due to Dong Ruan's background, Yun Jian was directly arranged to be in Class A. The homeroom teacher of Year 3 class was a female teacher who had just graduated from university. She looked very young, probably in her 20s, and her surname was Yu. To be able to get this position right after graduation, her family must be wealthy as well. Teacher Yu brought Yun Jian to the dormitory and packed her daily necessities before bringing Yun Jian to Class A. Longma number 1 middle school had a rule that all students who studied here had to stay on campus from Monday to Friday, even if they were from wealthy families. Yun Jian knew about it early on, so she brought her daily necessities. Fortunately, there weren't many things, so she packed them up quickly. In the classroom of Grade 3 Class A, during the break, the students in the classroom were all grinning and having fun. Teacher Yu led Yun Jian into the classroom and gestured for the whole class to quiet down. This is a new transfer student. I hope that everyone can get along well in the future. Next, let's invite the new student to introduce himself. Teacher Yu said. When Ms. Yu said this, all the students in the class stared at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was not bad-looking. She had big eyes, long and thin brows, and the long and narrow eyelashes beneath her eyes fluttering. She was small yet adorable. It was just that her tattered old clothes that were so worn that they had faded from being washed, spoiling the scene. A girl looked at Yun Jian's appearance with jealousy and rolled her eyes. Puffed. She's most likely someone who came from a poor village. I don't know how someone like her got into our Class A. Most of the students here said whatever they wanted without any hesitation. Because of their family background, even the teachers could only turn a blind eye and pretend that they didn't hear anything. Yun Jian naturally heard it, but she pretended not to hear it. She simply introduced herself. I'm Yun Jian. That's it. What about self-introduction? That's it. The students sitting below were all stunned. Yun Jian. Why did this name sound so familiar? Chapter 82. Most of the students in Class A didn't pay much attention to the exam results. Most of the students in Class A were from wealthy families, but the teachers assigned to them were the best in the entire cohort. This also fully showed that in this world, only those with money and power were kings. However, there were also some top students in Class A who had the best grades in the city, but didn't come from wealthy families. After that student's shout, coupled with Yun Jian's current attire, the entire class immediately categorized Yun Jian as someone who didn't come from a wealthy family, but had excellent grades. If the international tycoons and world-class old fellows that Yun Jian knew in her previous life heard these thoughts, they would probably roll on the floor laughing. What a joke. Yun Jian didn't have money? No power? Who are you kidding? If she didn't have money, how could she have monopolized the entire business world? If she didn't have power, How could she have done whatever she wanted in the black market? After the entire class was in an uproar, Teacher Yu calmly pointed to a seat near the trash can at the back of the classroom and said to Yun Jian, "You can sit there for now. In a few days, the classroom will rearrange the seats and you'll be moved to the front." Teacher Yu didn't mean to ridicule Yun Jian on purpose, but the classroom was already full and there was only one empty seat. Number 1 middle school was the place where parents in the city racked their brains to send their children to school. If it weren't for Dong Ruan, the seat beside the trash can would have been taken away long ago. Okay. Yun Jian nodded and walked down from the podium to the seat Teacher Yu pointed out. There were many rich kids in Class A, so there were many fun people. When Yun Jian walked through the aisle and headed to the back of the classroom, she saw a boy covering his mouth and laughing as if he was up to something. His scheme was written all over his face. Yun Jian pretended not to see it and continued walking to the back of the classroom. When she went to the back and was near the seat of the boy who was smirking just now, he suddenly extended a leg, wanting to hook Yun Jian with it to tease the new student. Many of the students in the class were laughing in their hearts, as if they were already accustomed to this boy's trick of entertaining new students. In everyone's imagination, when Yun Jian walked over, she was suddenly tripped by the boy and fell directly to the ground with a bang, causing the whole class to burst into laughter. However, that was not the case. The boy suddenly stretched out a leg. Under the expectant gaze of the students, Yun Jian smiled. She lifted her leg and was about to walk over, but suddenly stopped in midair. The boy had already stretched out his leg and placed it in the middle of the aisle. At this moment, Yun Jian paused her leg in the air and suddenly stomped down. Looking again, the boy's leg was actually stepped on by Yun Jian. He cried out in pain, "Ah, it hurts, it hurts." Yun Jian stomped hard. She paused for a moment and then raised her leg. Her eyes were bright, but she was looking ahead. In other words, she had accurately stepped on the boy's leg based on her intuition. When the students in the class saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Every time a new student came to the class, as long as they were students who did not come from rich families but were exceptionally good in their studies, they would be bullied, just like what the boy did just now. However, no one had ever been able to avoid it. When Yun Jian walked over just now, it was as if she did not know about this at all. How did the next moment, the person who was being stepped on become this boy? Chapter 83. The boy was not angry at being stepped on. Instead, he chuckled and rubbed his retracted foot, teasing Yun Jian right in front of Miss Yu. "Hey, new student, you're pretty good. Let's be friends. I'm Zhang Xiaofeng, what about you?" Although Yun Jian had introduced herself in front of the class, no one would remember the new student's name on purpose. Yun Jian ignored him and walked past Zhang Xiaofeng to her designated seat. The girls in the class were displeased again. Zhang Xiaofeng was the most handsome boy in E High. He was handsome and could charm a lot of girls. More importantly, he came from a wealthy family and was said to be the heir of a large corporation in Longmen City, worth tens of millions. Many girls in class were Zhang Xiaofeng's admirers. Hence, the girls expressed their displeasure at the newcomer, Yun Jian. Why is this newcomer so smug? She dares to ignore young Master Feng. Does she really think she's some treasure? Who does she think she is? That's right. She doesn't even look at what she's wearing. TSK, those clothes must have been picked up from street stalls. She's still wearing them. The boys and girls in number 1 middle school came from well-to-do families. Therefore, in school, they always liked to compare who bought which branded clothes or shoes. Yun Jian's attire became another topic of discussion for these girls who already held grudges against her. In spite of it, Yun Jian ignored them and pretended not to hear them. Yun Jian's seat was next to the trash can, so she did not have a desk mate. Just as she was about to take a short nap with her eyes closed, she suddenly felt a touch on her arm. Opening her eyes, she saw a shy and obedient girl sitting in front of her greeting her. "Hi, how are you? I'm Chun Sinny. Can I be friends with you?" The girl blinked cutely and continued in a familiar tone. "I know your name is Yun Jian. After hearing my introduction, you don't have to introduce yourself to me again." Chun Sinny behaved naturally and gracefully. Although she had the aura of someone born in a wealthy family, she didn't ridicule or despise Yun Jian because of her clothes like other girls. This made Yun Jian have a good impression of Chen Sini. She nodded and replied to the cute girl, "Yes. Since you've agreed, then we're friends from now on. You can't go back on your word." Chen Sini smiled sweetly and made a face at Yun Jian, with a hint of mischief in it. However, as soon as Chen Sini finished her last sentence, the bell rang. Chen Sini chuckled and curled her lips. "It's time for class. Let's go to the cafeteria for lunch." The next class was an English quiz. To put it bluntly, it was an exam, so the third and fourth classes were held together. After the two classes, it was lunchtime. Number 1 middle school's cafeteria paid by swiping a card. After charging money into the card was swiped after ordering. Lunchtime was 1.5 hours long, so it was enough for the students to line up and eat. Before Yun Jian could apply for her meal card, Chen Sini held her arm and generously asked her to pay with her own card first. The school cafeteria did not accept cash. After getting their food and sitting at the dining table in the large cafeteria, Chen Sini could not help asking Yun Jian, even addressing her affectionately, "Jian Jian, which school did you go to before?" She took a bite of her food as she spoke. Hearing Chen Sini call her Jian Jian, Yun Jian was surprised. It was a weird form of address, but she did not think much of it. Yun Jian was not repulsed by Chen Sini's enthusiasm. That was why she did not reject Chen Sini when she took the initiative to hold her arm. Xinjiang Town High School. Yun Jian took a big bite of meat and replied as she chewed. She was a little thin and frail, so it was easy for her to fight with normal people. However, if she were to encounter high-level assassins and secret agents in her past life, she would be lacking in stamina. She had to nourish herself well to keep up with her physique. Wow, it must be fun. Chen Sini did not mean anything bad. She was just being childish. Across the 4-seater table where they were sitting, a handsome boy with a smile took his seat opposite Yun Jian with a plate of rice. Looking up, it was Zhang Xiaofeng. It was obvious that Zhang Xiaofeng's appearance had attracted the attention and screams of the girls around the cafeteria. "Hey, new student I know now. You're Yun Jian, right?" "Ha!" Zhang Xiaofeng said to Yun Jian with his signature smile. He then scanned the surroundings and went to Yun Jian to ask softly, "What's your name?" Chapter 84. Once Zhang Xiaofeng said that, Yun Jian looked up at him and went back to eating without replying. Zhang Xiaofeng panicked and turned to Chen Sini, who was giggling. "Hey, Sini, put in a good word for me." It looked like Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were old acquaintances and had a close relationship. "Haha." Chen Sini chuckled with a hand over her mouth and turned to Yun Jian. "Jian Jian, don't teach him. He's bad." Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were actually cousins and had been bickering since they were young. As Zhang Xiaofeng was a few months older than Chen Sini and had a playful personality, he usually liked to bully Chen Sini. Hence, Chen Sini took the opportunity to get revenge on Zhang Xiaofeng in front of Yun Jian. "Go away." Zhang Xiaofeng waved his fist at Chen Sini when he heard what she said to Yun Jian before looking at Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, I don't care. I'll take it that you've accepted me as your disciple if you don't say anything." Yun Jian grinned and moved the chopsticks in her hand, uttering faintly, "Let's eat." Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were speechless. A week passed by quickly. It was more relaxing in school this week. At least they did not run into any trouble. Even if there were, they had Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng to protect them. These few days, Zhang Xiaofeng had been chasing after Yun Jian and calling her master, nonstop, surprising a lot of people. Yun Jian was exasperated. It was Friday soon. Yun Jian packed the things she wanted to bring home for the weekend. There was not much, so she put everything in her bag and left the dorm for the school gate. There was a direct bus from Human High School to her family's villa. Yun Jian went to the bus stop after she exited the school gate. There was a lot of traffic in front of the school gate. There were not many cars in this era, so most of the students took the bus. Just as Yun Jian followed the crowd to take the bus, a black limited edition Lamborghini sped over and drifted to a stop at the empty space in front of the school gate. Yun Jian squinted and saw the breathtakingly handsome C.E. sitting in the Lamborghini from afar. Why was he here? Yun Jian squinted, wondering why this person who had nothing to do with her was here. Just as she thought about it, the girls at the school gate screamed, "Oh my God, who is that? He's so handsome. How can there be such a handsome person in this world? Oh my God, I'm not dreaming, am I? Is he here to pick someone up? Is it his girlfriend? Wow, I'm so jealous. His girlfriend must be a beautiful and rich girl. Although cars were rare in this era, most of the students in number 1 high school had their own cars. So it was not surprising that a car appeared at the school gate. However, this Lamborghini was a limited edition sports car, and there were only a few of them in the world. Even if they did not know how expensive this car was, they could tell how valuable it was. Everyone was panicking. Everyone held their breaths and looked at CE, not daring to breathe loudly. CE turned his chiseled face and stared at Yunjian with his deep eyes. He pursed his thin lips and said, "Get in." Who got in? Everyone looked around for the person. Chapter 85. This was Yunjian's third time seeing CE. The first 2 times, they had only seen each other, but they hadn't even spoken to each other. What Yunjian didn't understand was why he had come to pick her up when they clearly didn't have any interactions at all. However, Yunjian had never been a talkative person. As a special agent in her previous life, she had to remember one thing. The less you know, the longer you live. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. She wasn't pretentious as she walked over to the Lamborghini's front passenger seat and got in. This kind of super sports car could only seat 2 people and didn't have a back seat. Just as Yunjian got into the car and closed the door, the Lamborghini's accelerator was suddenly stepped on. The entire car was like a flying arrow as it whizzed across the road like a gust of wind and disappeared from everyone's sight. The surrounding group of people was instantly dumbfounded. Although they had cars at home, they had never seen a car that could be driven at such a fast speed. The car just now wasn't driven at such a speed. It was as if it was running at full speed. That speed was really like a gust of wind. The surrounding group of people watched as the sports car left in a flashy manner. The handsome man driving the sports car left with Yunjian, and they all revealed looks of disappointment. It was also at this moment that a good-looking girl pointed in the direction Yunjian had left in and raised her eyebrows at her friend beside her. She spoke loudly, as if she was afraid that the surrounding group of people couldn't hear her loud voice. "Isn't that girl just now a new classmate from our class? I heard that she transferred in from an ordinary school in the town." As soon as the girl said that, some of the surrounding students turned their attention to the girl. The feeling of being the center of attention made the girl feel very comfortable as she continued to speak her long-winded speech. It was as if she was the one sitting in the Lamborghini sports car. In fact, this girl had appeared before. When Yunjian had just entered the classroom, she had taken the lead to scold Yunjian in front of the teacher. She had said that Yunjian was obviously from a poor village. She even mocked Yunjian without hesitation. How did someone like her get into Class A? This girl's name was Lu Rongrong. At this moment, Lu Rongrong seemed to know everything about Yunjian. In front of all the teachers and students at the school gate, she began to boast about her. At this moment, inside the Lamborghini, it was the middle of October, and the cold wind had just started blowing. The weather was slightly colder. Especially since it had been drizzling for the past few days, the change in the weather was even more obvious. The heater was turned on in the sports car, so it was warm. Unlike the coolness outside, it was much more comfortable. Not long after the car left the school gate, CE said, "My aunt asked me to pick you up from school." Does this mean that it was Dong Ruan's idea to pick me up from school and not his own? Yunjian nodded and answered without batting an eyelid. Yunjian sat in the car. She was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt. The warm air from the heater in the car raised her temperature. CE's driving skills were very good. He stepped on the accelerator tightly and sped wildly on the bustling street without hitting anyone. Yunjian's driving skills in her previous life were among the best in the world. CE's driving skills seemed to be on par with hers. However, if they were to really compare, perhaps there would be a different situation. Chapter 86. Speeding all the way home, Yunjian did not look scared at all. There was not even a flicker in her gaze. A normal girl would have shrieked at the speed of the car. He narrowed his eyes. This girl was different from the rest since their first meeting. When they arrived at the villa, Yunjian went straight to her bedroom. At this hour, both Dong Ruan, who was a high-ranking official, and Qin Yuru, who had gone out to work, were still at work. Therefore, There was only Yun Jian and C.E. who was in the room not far from hers left in the villa. The atmosphere was strange. Yun Jian was already in her bedroom. She turned on her laptop and logged in to the secret webpage. Beep, beep, beep. After 3 beeps, a message popped up. It was a private message sent by Snake. Lizard not long ago. It was short and simple. I'm here. She had arrived in Longmen City. Yun Jian pursed her lips slightly as she typed, "Wait for me. I'm coming over now," on the keyboard. She then closed the webpage and closed her laptop, changing her outfit and heading out. Just as she stepped out, she saw C.E., who was in the room next door, opening his door and coming out of his room. Yun Jian's eyes darted around as she went over and extended her hand without hesitation. "Lend me your Lamborghini." C.E. raised his eyebrows and glanced at Yun Jian suspiciously. "You know how to drive?" He had checked the girl's background. She was born in an ordinary family and was still an underage girl. However, the truth was not as simple as it seemed. "Yes," Yun Jian answered with a wave of her hand. He was not stingy as he tossed the car keys to Yun Jian. The Lamborghini was a global limited edition supercar that he had personally modified. He would not lend it to anyone easily. He had never let anyone drive the car since it was in his hands. Yun Jian was the first person other than himself to have done so. He didn't even know why he lent his car to her. At this moment, Yun Jian had already sat in the front seat of the Lamborghini and started the engine. She stepped on the accelerator, and the car roared like thunder. She tested the car's performance. The car's performance was very high. Compared to her favorite car in her previous life, the Ferrari LaFerrari, it was not inferior at all. Boom, boom, boom. With a final roar, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator and released the clutch. The Lamborghini rushed out like a bolt of lightning. Golden Glitter Hotel. Yun Jian slammed on the brakes. The Lamborghini drifted at the entrance of the Golden Glitter Hotel and stopped steadily. The Glitter Hotel was a 5-star hotel in Longmen City. There was food and accommodation. More importantly, the hotel's interior decoration was classy, one of the best in Longmen City. Of course, in comparison, the consumption was one level higher. Even some of Longmen City's high-ranking officials, such as the mayor and secretary, would choose this hotel as the venue for important meetings. Yun Jian got out of the Lamborghini and stepped into the hotel through the entrance with narrowed eyes. Just as she stepped in, Yun Jian saw a woman sitting in a corner on the first floor. From the back, this woman looked very ordinary. She even wore a hat on her head. However, from the side of her face, she was extremely exquisite. The woman was only in her 20s. Opposite the woman sat a middle-aged man in his 40s. Both of them were talking about something. Yun Jian walked over with narrowed eyes. Chapter 87. Snake. Lizard was good at hiding her identity. She could blend into every corner without being noticed. Therefore, Yun Jian searched around the corners the moment she entered the hotel and found Snake. Lizard. Snake. Lizard was talking to the middle-aged man sitting opposite her. She stopped talking and looked at Yun Jian as soon as she sensed someone approaching. She could not help frowning when she saw Yun Jian slowly making her way over with both hands in her pockets. Who was this girl? Yun Jian looked nothing like how she did in her past life. Even her height and body shape were different. She was tall and seductive in her past life, but she was petite and cute now. It was no wonder that Snake. Lizard did not recognize her. She became alert when she saw Yun Jian walking toward them. What's wrong? The middle-aged man did not notice Yun Jian walking toward them. He found it strange that Snake. Lizard stopped talking. Just as the middle-aged man finished his question, Yun Jian was already in front of them. The middle-aged man was stunned. When he saw Yun Jian clearly, he thought that she was a little girl who was here to cause trouble. He waved at Yun Jian. "Little girl, go over there if you want to play. Uncle and sister have something important to discuss." The middle-aged man pointed at the door as he spoke, obviously thinking that Yun Jian had gone to the wrong place. Yun Jian ignored the middle-aged man's explanation. She looked at Snake. Lizard with her clear eyes and pursed her lips slightly. She spoke in German using a code that only Snake. Lizard and her knew when she was slaying God in her past life. Slaying is not a god, Snake. Lizard is not a lizard. Professional assassins like them were proficient in foreign languages. They had come into contact with languages from big countries to small villages. This code word was set by her and Snake. Lizard back then, and when saying this code word, it had to be said in German or it would be ineffective. What's that? Little girl, what are you talking about? The middle-aged man did not understand German at all and had no idea what Yun Jian was doing. Just as he was about to drive Yun Jian away, he saw Snake. Lizard suddenly stand up. Because of the shock, the corner of her clothes accidentally brushed the teacup on the table. Fortunately, Snake. Lizard was quick, and she immediately caught the teacup. You? The snake lizard moved its lips. However, Yun Jian put her index finger to her lips and made a shoe expression. Even this action was exactly the same as slaying gods. Snake. Lizard forcibly suppressed the shock in its heart. In fact, in the eyes of Snake, Lizard and the others, Yun Jian had already disappeared, because they only found Yun Jian's beloved car, the Ferrari sports car, but she was missing. Yun Jian never left this sports car. Even when she was out on a mission, she would drive it everywhere. The car was still there, and the people were still there. But now, the car was here, and there was no news of the person. That meant, but not long ago, Yun Jian took the initiative to contact her. Snake. Lizard was particularly surprised at that time, but at the same time, she was relieved that Yun Jian was fine. Of course, who was slaying God? The #1 special agent. How could something have happened to her? However, until Yun Jian said the code and did the action, the questions in her heart seemed to have been answered. I'll settle your matter in a few days. You can leave now, Snake. Lizard looked at Yun Jian and said to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was stunned and dumbfounded. What was going on? This little girl, who came out of nowhere, was spouting nonsense. He did not know what she meant, but Snake. Lizard was asking him to leave now. However, the middle-aged man dared not provoke Snake. Lizard, so he could only turn around and leave. Chapter 88. You're slaying God? There were only the two of them in the hotel room. Snake. Lizard frowned in disbelief as she looked at Yun Jian, who was sitting on the bench and smiling. No matter how she looked at her, the girl before her had thin arms and legs. She was beautiful and exquisite, but compared to the slaying god of the past, the difference was huge, whether it was her appearance or her height. There were no outsiders now. Yun Jian nodded at Snake. Lizard and smirked. Who else could it be other than me? That was right. Other than slaying God. Who else could exude such an aura that made her submit? Apart from her, who else would know the secret code between them? How did you become like this? Snake. Lizard breathed a sigh of relief. After confirming that Yun Jian was slaying God again, she asked in confusion and shock. Who wouldn't be shocked to be reborn into another person's body? That was why Yun Jian hid the truth from the people around her after her rebirth. Even if she told them, no one would believe her. Instead, they would think that she had gone mad. However, it was different for Snake. Lizard. Yun Jian knew Snake. Lizard and her weakness, so she told Snake. Lizard without fear. At the same time, there was no doubt that Snake. Lizard was the person she trusted the most when she was slaying God's agent. It's a long story. I touched the box that day, and I was already like this when I woke up. Yun Jian shrugged and smiled helplessly. The sandalwood box? Snake. Lizard licked her lips and asked. Yun Jian nodded. Snake. Lizard was the only person who knew about her rescue of her brother, who was kidnapped in her past life. It's a foregone conclusion. We can't change it, but I'm very satisfied with my current situation. Yun Jian changed the topic and smiled shyly. She was glad that she had the family she had always longed for after her rebirth. Yun Jian then asked Snake. Lizard to update her on the Kosha mercenaries' recent situation. Snake. Lizard's eyes narrowed, and her tone was grave. Those old guys can't sit still anymore. Oh. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows and chuckled. This group of old men referred to some of the senior members of the Kosha mercenaries. They were also the subordinates of the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries. In her previous life, Yun Jian was only 16 years old. She was very young, but after her rebirth, she became 15 years younger. In her previous life, when she was 14 years old, she had killed the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries. Then, she brought her own group of people to infiltrate the Kosha mercenaries and took over their power. It had only been 2 years since then. However, a mercenary group couldn't be supported by just a few people. Because she had killed the previous boss of the Kosha mercenaries, that group of old men had been waiting patiently for an opportunity to take her down and destroy her. Of course, Yun Jian wouldn't let them succeed. She could even easily destroy that group of old men. However, the time was not right yet. The group of old men had a strong backing. If they were eliminated at once, the Kosha mercenaries' capability would be greatly reduced. If that happened, it would be extremely disadvantageous for the Kosha mercenaries if other assassin mercenary organizations took advantage of the situation. What she wanted to do was to replace all the old members of the Kosha mercenaries with her own people and make them fall into hell step by step. Stay in Longmen City for now. Don't go back to the organization. Remember to tell Tiger, Leopard to keep an eye on those old men. Report to me immediately if they do anything. Yun Jian's lips curled into a half-smile that was eerily charming. Okay, Snake. Lizard nodded. She had never rejected Yun Jian's orders. Tiger. Leopard was the person who picked up Yun Jian's call when she was in Xinjiang town. Both Snake, Lizard, and Tiger, Leopard were absolutely obedient to Yun Jian. It was because Snake, Lizard, and Tiger, Leopard were saved by Yun Jian. Without Yun Jian, they would not be where they were today. It was almost dusk when Yun Jian and Snake, Lizard came down from the private room of the hotel. Yun Jian walked in front while Snake, Lizard followed behind. Both of them were walking down the spiral staircase of the hotel. A group of rowdy people came in from the entrance. Judging by their attire, they were students. Yun Jian, however, saw someone she was extremely familiar with in the crowd. Brother Yuni? Why was he here? Yun Jian was stunned. Yun Yi and the rest did not see her, but she happened to see Yun Yi looking awkward. The boy standing beside Yun, it was not Su Haokol, but a fashionably dressed boy. The boy suggested casually, "It's Su Haokol's birthday dinner today. We can't possibly come here empty-handed, can we? How about this? Each of us will give Su Haokol a 100 yuan red packet. Does anyone have any objections?" The group had no objections, but Yun Yi, who was standing among them, stood out like a crane among a flock of chickens. 100 yuan was not a small amount to him. Therefore, Yun Yi was quite embarrassed. The boy seemed to have disliked Yun Yi for a long time. He suddenly turned to look at Yun Yi and said with a chuckle, "Yun Yi, you don't have to pay. Your family background is poor, and we all know you can't afford it. Anyway, and how's your good friends? He won't mind." Chapter 89. Yun Yi was handsome. He was the tallest and most handsome person in the group. However, it also attracted the jealousy of the other boys in the class. Most of the girls in the class were looking at Yun Yi. All of them blushed and did not even look at the other boys. The boy just now was the one in Yun Yi's class who disliked him the most. His name was Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang was not very good looking. Although he was quite tall, he was a little fat. His face was covered with acne. Because his family was rich, it was inevitable that he felt that he was better than others. He was arrogant and domineering. Most of the students in Yun Yi's class were from the city. Their families were quite rich. The whole class was invited to Su Haokol's birthday party. Of course, there were also many students who did not attend the party. Yun Yi and Su Haokol were close friends. Of course, it was impossible for him not to give face and not attend. Wu Kuang took advantage of this. In addition, most of the students who came to the party today were from rich families. He came up with this idea to embarrass Yun Yi. Yun Yi was really embarrassed by Wu Kuang's words. After all, it was his good friend's birthday party. Although Su Haokol had told him not to send any gifts and that it was fine as long as he came, the thought was the most important. However, he saw that all the classmates who came with him had given red packets. On the other hand, he, who was the closest to Su Haokol, did not pay a single cent and came to eat and drink for free. What did it look like? However, Yun Yi really did not have any money. At most, he only had a few yuan. He had saved it for a few months. After all, his family situation was also there. Now, He was even living in someone else's house. How could he have spare money? Wu Kuang snickered in his heart. He was waiting to see Yun Yi's embarrassed face. Brother. At this moment, a beautiful and crisp voice came in time. The voice was crisp and pleasant like the sound of nature. A girl about 15 years old walked down the spiral stairs. This girl was wearing ordinary clothes, and behind her was a woman wearing a hat. However, what made people's eyes light up was the girl's beautiful and delicate little face. Yun Jian walked over and stood beside Yun Yi. She ignored the others and smiled at Yun Yi. Brother, why are you here? Xiao Jian? Yun Yi was taken aback. She wanted to ask Yun Jian the same question, but she was one step ahead of her. It's his birthday today. He's treating everyone to a banquet here. Our classmates are all here to celebrate his birthday. Yun Yi's awkwardness eased a little when she saw her younger sister. He even felt that as long as his sister was around, there was nothing that couldn't be done. Oh, Yun Jian pretended to understand what was going on. She nodded and then burst into a bright smile. Then you shouldn't mind if I bring my friends along for a free meal, right? As she spoke, Yun Jian shifted to the side and revealed Snake. Lizard as well. The others could not help rolling their eyes inwardly when they heard Yun Jian. They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen someone as shameless as her, coming up to ask for a free meal. Yun Yi, who had never seen Snake, Lizard before, was surprised and looked at Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, she's my friend. Yun Jian answered with half-squinted eyes. Yun Yi, this is your younger sister? Wu Yin looked at Yun Yi with gritted teeth when she saw that her scheme did not work and was interrupted by Yun Jian. Wu Yin did not wait for Yun Yi to admit that Yun Jian was her younger sister and said eagerly, Yun Yi, your sister's bringing her friends to the gathering too? That's not very nice, is it? Su Haokol is treating our classmates to a meal out of kindness. We'll forget about your share, but if there are 2 more people. The meaning behind her words was self-evident. Chapter 90. Sure enough, as soon as Wu Yin finished speaking, not only Yun Yi, but also some of the classmates around them could hear Wu Yin's strong hostility towards Yun Yi. They all showed a trace of embarrassment. Wu Yin did not give up. He smiled evilly and did not feel that he had just said anything overboard. Instead, he added fuel to the fire and said to Yun Yi in a charitable tone, Forget it. I think Yun Yi, I'll pay for your red packets. As he spoke, Wu Yin took out a leather wallet from his trouser pocket and took out 3 red Grandpa Mao notes from the wallet. When he did this, he deliberately paid attention to the gazes of the group of people around him. He put on airs as if he was superior to others. Wow, Wu Yin, is the wallet in your hand made of real leather? It's so cool. This style hasn't been sold in the market yet. At this time, a boy in the group with big glasses sighed. The boy's words made Wu Yin even more proud. Wu Yin held the 3 cute Grandpa Mao notes in his hand. He was not in a hurry to use it to humiliate Yun Yi. Instead, he boasted even more. Now, the way he looked at others changed. This wallet was a birthday gift from my uncle this year. It was imported from France. As he said this, Wu Yin raised his head proudly and showed off. As he spoke, Wu Yin turned to look at Yun Yi. He looked at him with a charitable gaze and handed the 3 Grandpa Mao notes to Yun Yi. Take it. You don't have to return it. His tone was very domineering. It was as if the 300 yuan was nothing in his eyes. He used it to highlight his family's strong foundation. Yun Yi clenched his fist. Seeing Wu Yin humiliate him like this, he almost raised his fist and punched him. But he held back. Take the money back. We don't need it. Yun Yi gritted his teeth. Their family was poor. But even if they were poor with dignity. Hey, Yun Yi. I was kind enough to help you out. Why don't you appreciate it? Wu Yin pursed his lips and even accused Yun Yi, saying that he was ungrateful. Yun Yi's face darkened. Yun Jian saw her brother being bullied by Wu Yin. Naturally, she would not sit by and do nothing. Snake, Lizard, who was standing behind Yun Jian, finally understood the whole story. She remained silent and waited for Yun Jian's instructions. You want to give a red packet if you stay for dinner, right? Yun Jian blinked, replacing Yun Yi. Wu Yin. Everyone is prepared to give it to you. You can't just give it to the white sheep empty-handed, right? Little girl, your brother hasn't accepted my goodwill yet. Why don't you hold on to this money for him? Wu Chong waved the 3 red banknotes in his hand and told Yun Jian boastfully. To Wu Qiao, he only had one goal, to embarrass Yun Yi. The rest of the process was not important. It was apparent that Wu Qiao had thought of her as a girl who came from a poor family and was greedy for money. Of course we want to give her a red packet. Yun Jian smiled at Wu Yin, revealing a row of neat white teeth. Wu Yin thought that Yun Jian had taken a bait. He quickly handed the 300 yuan used to humiliate Yun Yi to Yun Jian. At the same time, he looked at Yun Yi with disdain. Then take it quickly. He subconsciously thought that Yun Yi's family did not have the financial means to take out 300 yuan at once. Yun Jian suddenly stopped smiling. Her expression suddenly became cold. She turned her head slightly, not looking at Wu Yin and the others' expressions. She turned her head to look at Snake, Lizard's bag, then turned her head to look at Wu Yin and the others. How can a red packet of 100 yuan be enough? Shouldn't you at least give 1,000 yuan? As she spoke, Yun Jian called Snake. Lizard, Lizard, Snake. Lizard had been by Yun Jian's side for so long. How could she not know what Yun Jian meant? Snake. Lizard obeyed and opened her bag, taking out 3 stacks of red 100 yuan notes. Snake. Lizard had the habit of keeping cash in her bag. Yun Jian was naturally aware of this. Seeing everyone's shocked and frightened expressions, and then thinking of her brother's awkward face when he was bullied and did not know how to fight back, Yun Jian could no longer hold back. Even if she could not tell Qin Yuru the truth, she had to let her brother know something. Yun Jian looked at Wu Yin, who was holding the 300 yuan notes in shock, and sneered. 1,000 each. No need to return. Chapter 91. 3 thick stacks of red notes meant 30,000 yuan. Moreover, the money came from Snake, Lizard's purse. In other words, Snake. Lizard's purse was filled to the brim with cash. Prices were low in this day and age. It was already impressive for a student like Wu Qiao to be able to fork out 100 yuan. At the very least, the parents of these students were high-ranking officials or entrepreneurs. They could fork out 100 yuan, but 1,000 yuan was not a small sum. 1,000 yuan was enough for a normal family to live for a long time. Therefore, everyone present was dumbfounded when they saw the scene just now, their eyes nearly falling out of their sockets. Yun Yi was poor, so was his younger sister. Why would his sister's friend have so much money in her purse? More importantly, why had Snake? Lizard obeyed Yun Jian's command just like that. Xiao Jian, you. Yun Yi's eyes widened as she stared at Yun Jian and Snake. Lizard behind her in disbelief. His younger sister was getting more mysterious. Mysterious skills, mysterious friends. Why was it that he could not see through her anymore? They were siblings who grew up together, but Yun Yi froze on the spot, as if it was his first time meeting Yun Jian. Yun Jian cast a reassuring look at Yun Yi without explaining anything. Wu Qiao, on the other hand, felt like running away. His palms were sweating as he gripped the 3 notes in his hand that he thought he could humiliate Yun Yi. Looking at the 3 stacks of cash in Snake, Lizard's hand, he felt defeated. Now that he thought about it, how ridiculous was his action just now. It was then that a male voice that eased the awkward atmosphere rang. Everyone's here already. Come upstairs quickly. We're waiting for you guys. As the voice faded, Su Haokol, who was dressed in a flashy suit, came down the spiral staircase. His tall and muscular physique was as handsome as Yun Yi's. Su Haokol was stunned when he saw Yun Jian before he ran to Yun Jian under everyone's surprised gazes and looked at her with admiration. Yun Yi, Mimi, you're here too. Come, take a seat. I'm so happy that you're here for my birthday celebration today. Su Hao's actions caused everyone present to be even more shocked. This girl was valued by Su Haokol now. Combined with the scene just now, it seemed that this girl was not simple at all. Yun Yi's younger sister was not simple, not ordinary. Yun Jian smiled at Su Haokol and returned to her usual demeanor. Then, she pointed at the 3 stacks of bills in Su Haokol's hands and said, "This money is the red packet that everyone prepared for you. She really dared to give it to him? That was a total of 30,000 yuan. The group of people thought that Yun Jian wanted to avenge her brother, so she took out 30,000 yuan. However, they did not expect that she really intended to give it to him. 30,000 yuan, this was not a joke. This, Su Haokol glanced at it and was shocked. Take it. Yun Jian winked at Su Haokol and said. Su Haokol, who did not understand the situation, really thought that it was a red packet from his classmates. He thought that his classmates were really generous this time, so he accepted the red packets without any embarrassment. At this moment, Wu Quan's expression was the ugliest. After all, he was the one who suggested this. The classmates present were not short of money. Even if they really had to give 1,000 yuan, although it was a little too much, it would still give them face. Chapter 92. Yun Yi's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. In the end, Su Haokol gathered everyone on the second floor and seated them at the hot pot table in the VIP private room. There were about a dozen round hot pot tables in the VIP private room, and each table could seat about 10 people. It was obvious that Su Haokol had reserved the entire place. Of course, only 2 to 3 hot pot tables were taken after everyone was seated. The remaining tables were used for other purposes. Yun Jian was sitting on the left of her brother, Yun Yi, while Snake, Lizard was on her right. Su Haokol was sitting beside Yun Yi. All 4 of them were seated close to each other at the same table. The dishes are ordered. I've told the waiter that our table will be served first. My dad's business friend will be here later. Don't be shy then. We can talk among ourselves. Su Haokol spoke to his rowdy classmates after he sat down. To outsiders, Su Haokol's family was rich and powerful, and his father was a businessman. However, Yun Jian knew that Su Haokol was the son of Longmen City's top mafia boss. As for the friends of my father's business that he mentioned, he was probably referring to the people in that circle. Su Haokol's father was obviously using his son's birthday party as an excuse to invite his peers or people who were useful to him to the gathering and build a better relationship with these people. After all, if a gang wanted to survive, they needed to develop over a long period of time. They couldn't just rely on themselves. They could not rely on themselves alone, especially when important matters were involved, such as a large-scale mafia fight. Even the police officers in the police station had to build a good relationship with them. Otherwise, if someone in the mafia killed someone or there was a mafia fight, the police officers were not idiots. How could they not do anything when they knew about it and let the mafia do whatever they wanted? Yin Yi was also aware of his good friend's identity, but he chose to keep quiet. From a moment he and Su Haokol became brothers, they would not taunt each other because of each other's identity. After a while, the dishes were served. The waiter served the dishes one by one, and the group of people ate happily. After all, eating at the Golden Sparkle Hotel was very expensive. Even if most of the people present had a good foundation, it was impossible for them to eat here often. Otherwise, wouldn't he be broke from eating? Yun Jian sat in her seat and picked the big and fat meat to eat. Her stamina couldn't keep up, so she had to eat more energy. Simply running wasn't enough strength anymore. Slow down, Xiao Jian. No one's fighting with you. Seeing this, Yun Yi smiled handsomely and reached out to wipe off the meat residue on his sister's mouth. Ha! Mayor Gu, this way please. At this moment, a loud male voice came from a door. Then, a group of middle-aged men in their 30s and 40s walked into the room. Standing at the very front were 2 middle-aged men dressed in formal attire. The people who came in later also greeted them politely. This group of people didn't look ordinary. They obviously treated today as a gathering to make connections and expand their influence. The greeting of Mayor Gu attracted everyone's attention. Mayor Gu? Wasn't that Longmen City's mayor? Such a big shot was here too. Looking at the people who came in later, each of them had an imposing aura and looked like people who were destined for great things. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and turned to look at Snake. Lizard. Snake. Lizard's lips were pressed together when she saw the first middle-aged man who came in. The middle-aged man was none other than the man who was talking to Snake. Lizard when Yun Jian found her downstairs. What was more amazing was that Su Hao Cole went to the middle-aged man and called out, "Dad." The middle-aged man was Su Hao Cole's father, the boss of Longmen City's top mafia group, Su Zetian. Chapter 93. The man standing next to Su Zetian was Mayor Gu. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City. His official position was one of the highest in the entire city, and his political status in Longmen City was extraordinary as well. As a mafia boss, it was not surprising that Su Zetian had dealings with people from the government. Yun Jian narrowed his eyes as he watched Su Zetian and the others coming in. Su Zetian did not see Snake, Lizard, and Yun Jian at all. He was smiling and nodding at his son, Su Hao Cole, before following Mayor Gu into the private room to sit at an empty hot pot table. The others followed suit and sat at the empty seats around them. These people were high-ranking officials, triads, or business tycoons. Their social status was not low. They knew how to blend into the environment quickly and find companions who could benefit them, building a closer relationship and seeking cooperation that was mutually beneficial. This was the purpose of their gathering. They were not really here to celebrate Su Zetian's son, Su Hao Cole's birthday. Su Hao Cole was more or less disappointed that his father did not even wish him a happy birthday. Even his birthday party was a pretense to expand his influence. It was the same every year, but when he was filled with anticipation and was disappointed again and again, it was like a beloved toy being cruelly smashed in front of him, and he was helpless to do anything about it. Su Hao Cole could only bury his emotions deep down to prevent others from noticing his predicament. Happy birthday. It was at this juncture that he seemed to have noticed Su Hao Cole's mournful gaze. He placed his slender hand on Su Hao Cole's broad shoulder to comfort Su Hao Cole. Happy birthday. With taking the lead, everyone present congratulated Su Hao Cole after hearing it. Su Hao Cole pursed his thin lips. His voice became a little hoarse, and the gratitude in his eyes was genuine. Thank you, everyone. All right. We're all old classmates. There's no need to thank me. It's what I should do. Someone mumbled. His words moved Su Hao Cole even more. Yun Jian also followed the trend and shouted happy birthday to Su Hao Cole. However, her attention was actually focused on Su Zetian. Snake. Lizard had explained Su Zetian's identity to her, including why Snake. Lizard had met Su Zetian. Yun Jian did not expect Su Zetian to be a member of the Kosha mercenaries. However, Su Zetian's influence in the Kosha mercenaries was very small. Just like the members of the Kosha mercenaries were scattered all over the world, there were at least a few 100,000 of them. Furthermore, this group of people was divided into different groups. For example, the intelligence team, the assassination team, the investigation team, and so on. Su Zetian was merely a small force of the Kosha mercenaries in Longmen City. As the boss of the Kosha mercenaries in her past life, Yun Jian had left everything to Tiger, Leopard, and Snake, Lizard to manage. It was only natural that she did not know of Su Zetian's existence. Although Su Zetian was a member of the Kosha mercenaries, if he wanted to meet Yun Jian, it would be like an ordinary person meeting the country's president in her past life. Who knew that Yun Jian would end up in Longmen City after going around in circles one day? The wine glass in Su Zetian's hand that was sitting not far away suddenly fell to the ground with a bang and shattered into pieces. His calm demeanor when he was conversing with Mayor Gu crumbled instantly. It was because Su Zetian had just looked up when he saw Snake. Lizard. Terrified, he abandoned Mayor Gu and walked over to her under everyone's gaze. Everyone was shocked that Su Zetian would abandon the influential Mayor Gu and walk over to a woman. What was he doing? Su Zetian asked Snake. Lizard carefully. You're here too? Why didn't you say anything? Do you want to sit over there? Who was this woman? How could she be more dignified than Mayor Gu? Everyone was shocked, including Mayor Gu himself. Snake. Lizard then turned to look at Yun Jian, waiting for Yun Jian's opinion. With that, everyone's gaze was focused on Yun Jian. Chapter 94. I'll sit with my brother. Yun Jian did not look up. Wiping her mouth, she smiled faintly and stuffed another mouthful of fatty meat into her mouth. Snake. Lizard turned to look at Su Zetian when she heard Yunjian. You don't have to mind us. It was only then that Su Zetian noticed Yunjian. Yunjian had her hair tied in a high ponytail. Although she was dressed plainly, she exuded the aura of a ruler. Was this not the girl he met downstairs not long ago? He thought she had gone to the wrong place and asked her to stay away. What was the situation now, though? Snake. Lizard was a high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries. Su Zetian had no right to know her exact position. He only knew that Snake. Lizard held an extraordinary position in the Kosha mercenaries. Even so, Su Zetian could only admire Snake. Lizard's status. Now, even someone like Snake. Lizard had to lower her head in front of Yunjian. Who was this little girl? If Su Zetian knew, that's Snake. Lizard was the highest-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries. His legs would have turned to jelly from shock. If he knew that the seemingly harmless Yunjian was the biggest boss of the Kosha mercenaries, he would have fainted and been sent to the hospital. However, Su Zetian did not know. Such was the way of the world. Su Zetian was the boss of the top mafia group in Longmen City, a big shot who could do anything he wanted. However, he did not even know who the biggest boss of the Kosha mercenaries was. All right. Su Zetian could only wipe his slippery lips and bow to Yunjian and Snake. Lizard before he slowly walked back to Mayor Gu, his body tense. Wow. Yun-E, your sister's friend, knows Su Haokole's father? Once Su Zetian left, a girl sitting at the same table asked Yun-E with a surprised gaze, obviously trying to strike up a conversation with Yun-E. Yun-E was very popular in the class, especially the girls. They all liked her. Moreover, Yun-E was a sincere and gentle person. I don't know. Yun-E awkwardly glanced at Yunjian and Snake. Lizard, trying to change the topic. You want to know why Xiao Jian's friend knew his father too? Others might not know, but Yun-E knew very well that Su Haokole's father was not a model businessman, but a mafia boss. Xiao Jian's friend knew the mafia boss, and most importantly, the boss was respectful toward her. Even when he was chatting with a big shot like Mayor Gu, he could actually abandon it and come over to greet him first. At the moment, Yunjian, who was the source of everyone's suspicion, was sitting in her seat and devouring the plate of meat in front of her. Burp. Just as everyone stared at Yunjian eagerly, hoping to hear some explanation from Yunjian, Yunjian burped out of the blue. I'm full. Yunjian rubbed her tummy and returned a sweet smile to the group. The smiles on everyone's faces instantly stiffened. There was no doubt that a wave of shock washed over them. Was there no explanation? After a hearty meal and dinner, the sky was already dark and gloomy. No one was in a hurry to go home. Su Haokole suggested with a chuckle, "Why don't we go play at the new arcade for a while? I heard that there's a new gun simulation game there. It looks just like a real gun." As he spoke, Su Haokole turned to look at Yunjian. Chapter 95. Sister Yun-E, you should come too. Su Haokole suddenly stuck his head in front of Yunjian and said with a cheeky smile. Yun-E shifted his gaze to his sister as well. That day, when Yunjian killed the sniper, it scared him to death, but it was also a scene that he could not forget for a long time. Brother, are you going? Yunjian asked Yun-E. Su Haokole suddenly hugged Yun-E's shoulder and rushed to speak for Yun. Of course he is going. I'll go. Yunjian did not hesitate this time and said directly. Su Haokole smiled. The reason why he suggested to experience the simulation game was because of Yunjian. The way Yunjian killed the sniper that day was simply the rhythm of a sharpshooter. Otherwise, he would not go to the arcade to experience the simulation game guns. After all, Su Haokole was someone who had a real gun. The simulation game guns were really not good enough. Other than Yunjian and the others who wanted to go, Yun-Yi's classmates chose to go home, especially Wu Bin. He had suffered in the hands of Yunjian and had long wanted to leave. After waiting for a long time to finish eating, he ran away early in the morning with his tail between his legs. Snake. Lizard did not plan to go to the children's playground, so Yunjian threw the keys to the Lamborghini that she borrowed from CE to her and asked her to drive the car away first and come back tomorrow to pick it up. Snake. Lizard responded, took the keys, and turned to leave. After the group of people who left, there were more than a dozen people left. A few girls stayed because they wanted to have more contact with Yun, Yi, and Su Haokol. After all, Yun, Yi, and Su Haokol were the most handsome guys in school, so there were not many chances to interact with them. Let's walk along the street like this. It's not far from here, just around the corner of 2 streets. Su Haokol said as he pointed at the street ahead. I'm fine with anything. Yun Jian nodded. Just take it as a stroll. Su Haokol chuckled. Thus, the group strolled along the busy street. The city was beautiful at night. The area where Yun Jian was covered in neon lights, and there were many people coming and going. A night breeze blew. Autumn nights were always chilly. Yun Jian was wearing a short-sleeved shirt at the moment, so the cool breeze felt a little chilly as it blew through her skin. He suddenly took off his jacket and draped it over Yun Jian, saying with a smile, Xiao Jian, put on. Don't catch a cold. He had always doted on his younger sister since they were young. Yun Jian paused. She was actually not cold. She had gone through all kinds of hardships in her past life, so the cool breeze was nothing to her. In spite of it, she felt warmth from the bottom of her heart as she could not help thinking of her younger brother in her past life. If her younger brother was still here, would he be as nice to her as he was now? Thank you, brother. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and did not return the jacket to Yun Yi. Instead, she wrapped it around her shoulders. Yun Yi smiled and ruffled Yun Jian's hair. Step by step, they arrived at the arcade in no time. The arcade was located on the 3rd floor of a skyscraper. Skyscrapers were not common in Longmen City in 1998. The construction of skyscrapers had just begun, so this place was considered the city center of Longmen City. It was the arcade on the 3rd floor. As Yun Jian and the group stepped into the arcade, they saw the big screen that showed a gun simulation game. It had the most people gathered in front of it, most of them teenagers. Chapter 96. While Su Haokol was exchanging the game coins, Yun Jian glanced around. If it wasn't for her brother, Yun Yi, coming here, Yun Jian wouldn't have come to this place. To Yun Jian, the shooting games here were too childish. The rain of bullets she experienced in her previous life wasn't any less than what was shown in the gun simulation game. I'm back. Su Haokol held a pile of game coins and ran back from the counter. Then, Su Haokol divided the game coins equally among everyone. There were quite a few people standing in front of the gun-emulating game console. Because this game console was a new simulation game, even the guns were about the same weight as real guns. Although they were shooting at the big screen, the effect was quite similar to a real gun. The students of this era all wanted to try their hand at a gun, so there were a lot of people here to watch the shooting. There were also a lot of people playing the shooting game. Hey, it seems like we have to wait. There are too many people waiting to play the gun simulation game. Su Haokol touched his head and said, boys were passionate about guns and racing, but girls were different. So in the group, except for Yun Jian, the other girls all went to play other games. For example, the claw machine, which was suitable for girls to play. At this time, in front of the gun simulation game, a group of young people shouted, wow. They saw a man in his 20s standing in front of the gun simulation game. The man put away his gun and showed a triumphant smile. This gun game was to shoot at the target on the screen with a gun. Of course, this gun didn't have bullets, but it gave people a visual feeling of hitting the target on the screen. And besides the fact that there were no bullets, whether it was the feel of the gun or the simulation, it was first class. So when this game was released, it attracted a lot of young people who liked to play with guns. Wow, Brother Lei is amazing. No wonder he has touched a real gun. He knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. A boy standing not far away bragged to the man holding the gun. It was as if he was afraid that people didn't know that this man in his 20s had touched a real gun. Sure enough, when they heard that the man called Brother Lei had touched a real gun, the surrounding people were so surprised that they gasped. Now, Brother Lei was even more proud of himself. This is nothing. You haven't touched a real gun. There is a difference between a real gun and a toy gun. Brother Lei boasted. He was so proud that his nose was almost higher than his eyes. Are you done playing? Can you move aside if you are done? Su Haokol saw that Brother Lei's group had finished playing and didn't move aside, so he went forward and asked. At this moment, Brother Lei, who was still under everyone's admiring gazes, glared at Su Haokol fiercely. Where did you King Brat come from? How dare you snatch my game console? Brother Lei clenched his fists and bumped them together. He looked like he was about to fight and showed off. He was very proud. It was as if he was saying, if you say one more word, I will beat you up. Su Haokol opened his mouth. He had only asked one question, but Brother Lei was already angry. Just when he was about to reply, Yun Jian spoke first and directly attacked his back. You only knocked down 32 targets in 1 minute. Your shooting moves are flashy and extremely gaudy. You should move aside. Everyone was stunned. They saw Yun Jian criticizing Brother Lei word by word. Every word she said hit his weak spot. Brother Lei's expression became worse. Chapter 97. Brother Lei's elder brother was a soldier in the army, so he was equipped with a pistol. Brother Lei had touched a real gun before, so he thought he was great. Especially when he was playing this kind of shooting game, he felt that he was already standing at the top, looking down on a group of kids who had never touched a real gun before. It was as if he had taken a big step forward. Moreover, this gun simulation game console had just been released. It was already very impressive that Brother Lei could hit 32 moving targets on the big screen in 1 minute. This was already the highest record in the history of this gun-playing game. However, just as Brother Lei was proudly bragging to his friends, Yun Jian suddenly interrupted, pointing at the part where he thought he was good and degrading him to the point that he was worthless. How could Brother Lei take it? He didn't care whether Yun Jian was a girl or not. He shouted back at Yun Jian, "Where did you King Brat come from? Do you know who I am? How dare you fight with me for the game? TSK, you must be tired of living, right?" After shouting a few words, Brother Lei pointed his finger at Yun Jian fiercely. CK. Do you think I need a little kid like you to tell me what to do with my shooting skills? Come and do it if you dare. Brother Lei often hung out at the arcade, and he was also a gangster in society. However, he was good at playing games, so he was respectfully called the king of games by the people in this circle. Therefore, Brother Lei subconsciously thought that he was the king of the gaming circle. As long as it was a game that he had played, he would always be the one who set the highest record. That was why he dared to say something like, "Come at me if you can," to Yun Jian so brazenly. He didn't believe that this little girl who was still wet behind the ears could beat him. The few boys in Yun Yi's class saw the situation, and they all looked worried. They didn't expect that Su Haokol and Yun Jian would fight with them as soon as they called the arcade. More importantly, Brother Lei looked ferocious. He didn't look like someone to be trifled with. What should he do now? At this moment, Yun Jian grinned. She was not intimidated by Brother Lei's ferocious look at all. Instead, she curled her lips and smiled at Brother Lei in disdain. "All right, I'll do it. Move aside." Not only was Yun Jian not frightened by Brother Lei, but she was also going to greet him. Everyone on Brother Lei's side was stunned. Brother Lei was also stunned. He looked at Yun Jian again. He saw that Yun Jian was dressed in clean clothes. Although it looked like it was bought from a street stall, from her eyes and temperament, he could see a trace of extraordinariness. Was it an illusion? Brother Lei shook his head. She was just a little girl who liked to flaunt her superiority. Come. I'll let you do it. Little brat, it's not that I want to bully you, but just based on what you said just now, if you don't hit as many targets as I do this round, then you better strip naked and kneel in front of my brothers. Humph. Brother Lei growled in exasperation and threatened. Xiao Jian, don't. Yun Yi panicked. She panicked when she saw her younger sister getting into a fight with Brother Lei, who was obviously a hooligan. These hooligans are capable of doing anything. Before Yuni could shout, however, she was held back by Su Haokol. Believe your younger sister. Don't you want to see your younger sister's limit? Su Haokol told Yun Yi softly, looking at Yun Jian. This simulation game console could test a person's marksmanship, which was why Su Haokol wanted to lure Yun Jian here. He wanted to know how good Yun Jian's marksmanship was since she could kill a sniper instead. Yun Jian smiled in a way that sent chills down one's spine. She told Brother Lei faintly, "I'll cripple one of your hands after I win." She would not forgive anyone who insulted her verbally. How arrogant. Chapter 98. Brother Lei smirked deviously, his gaze already scanning Yun Jian from head to toe, as if he was certain that Yun Jian would lose and was already fantasizing about her naked body. Then we'll talk about it after you win me. Brother Lei glanced at Yun Jian condescendingly with a smirk. How could Brother Lei take Yun Jian's threats seriously? Even Brother Lei's buddies would not take Yun Jian's words seriously. What a joke. How could Brother Lei lose to an underage girl? Therefore, they could not wait to see Yun Jian lose and beg for mercy, only to be stripped naked by them. Brother Lei and his gang had done this many times. They were all gangsters in the society. What had they not done before? They would snatch any woman they fancied. If they could not get their hands on her, they would rape her, drug her, and force themselves on her. Did they not subdue her in the end? Everyone knew that Yun Jian was pretty. In fact, when Yun Jian and Brother Lei were at loggerheads in the beginning, Brother Lei's buddies had been eyeing Yun Jian. That was why Yun Yi was anxious. How could he pretend that he did not know that his younger sister was being eyed around by Brother Lei and his gang? Come on, little girl. Why aren't you here yet? Don't tell me you're too scared to come? One of Brother Lei's buddies could not help urging when he saw that Yun Jian had yet to go to the game console. Yun Jian smirked coldly and tossed a small pile of tokens in her palm into the air before catching them handsomely. She then took out another token with her other hand and passed the rest to Yun Yi. Brother, hold these for me, Yun Jian told Yun Yi. Xiao Jian, don't force yourself. Yun Yi bit his lip and said worriedly. Although Yun Jian had killed the sniper that day, as her brother, he was still worried about his sister. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Her heart felt warm. It felt good to have someone backing him up. Before Yun Jian went over to the console, she turned her head to look at Su Haokol, revealing a row of white and clean front teeth. Watch carefully. After saying that, Yun Jian walked towards the game console. Su Haojia, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. Yun Jian actually knew why he brought her here. Su Haokol just whispered to Yun Yi, but he didn't expect that Yun Jian already knew. That was why she told him, watch carefully before she left. Su Haokol felt his cheeks heat up at once, feeling embarrassed to be exposed by Yun Jian. Come to think of it, it was no big deal. He just wanted to know how good her marksmanship was. There was nothing wrong with that. While Su Haokol was thinking about it, Yun Jian was not in a hurry to insert the game token. Instead, she lifted the toy sniper rifle in front of her and weighed it in her hand. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. What was she doing? Yun Jian was checking the difference between the game sniper rifle's configuration and a real one. She weighed the coin in her hand for a moment before stuffing it into the slot of the game console. A string of English words appeared on the screen of the game console. The translated Chinese subtitles read, "The shooting battle begins." The game had begun. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Everyone held their breaths. Then, on the screen of the console, the targets moved from the side. As the target moved, a series of neat and orderly gunshots were heard from the speakers of the game console. Chapter 99. Everyone knew how to hold the imitation gun and pull the trigger with one hand to fire the bullets. This was especially true for this kind of simulation game. Usually, players could pull the trigger and fire at the big screen at will. There was also a chance of hitting the target. To put it bluntly, even a fool could do such a simple operation, unless someone was so stupid that they didn't even know where to pull the trigger. However, whether or not the bullets could hit the moving targets on the big screen was another matter altogether. When Yun Jian pulled the trigger, she was like an ordinary person who kept shooting at the big screen. This wasn't a big deal. However, what caught everyone's attention was the bang, bang, bang sound of the bullets being fired. Every time there was a sound, a target was hit. A series of fast-moving targets that no one would be able to shoot in time were all hit by Yun Jian's gun without missing a single one. If an ordinary person were to shoot at the targets that appeared one after another, it was estimated that by the time they aimed at the target on the left and shot the target on the left, the targets on the right would have already disappeared. In other words, they would have failed to shoot and missed the targets. Despite that, it was as if Yun Jian had already known the locations of the targets that appeared one after another with each shot. Every shot hit a target accurately. She actually reached the point where she didn't miss a single target. 30, 31, 32, 33. She has already hit 33 targets. Someone shouted out uncontrollably. His whole body was boiling with excitement. At this time, less than 10 seconds had passed since the 1-minute shooting competition started. In less than 10 seconds, Yunjian had already hit 33 targets and successfully overtaken Brother Lei. And now she was still shooting. God! Since Yunjian started shooting, everyone had been disdainful at the beginning. Then they were suddenly surprised, and now they were all pale with fright. Even some people behind couldn't help but start shouting and shouting. Brother Lei's face was very ugly. If he could still be said to be able to look down on Yunjian a few seconds ago, then his expression now was as if he had been beaten up. He was so embarrassed. Yunyi's emotions started to fluctuate. At this time, Su Haokol was forcefully suppressing his emotions and the shock that was about to burst out. He trembled as he counted the targets on the big screen that were shot by Yunjian one by one. No matter how exaggerated the emotions of the people around her were, the girl who was kneeling in front of the game console with one leg in a standard shooting position was not affected at all. Her finger quickly pulled the trigger, sweeping the targets on the big screen with the speed of a rain of bullets. When the game ended, the 4 big words and a string of numbers that appeared on the screen brought everyone's emotions to the climax. On the big screen, 6 big red words popped out. Highest record. Below the words in white letters, 203. Yunjian hit 203 targets in 1 minute. Oh my God, did I see it wrong? Guns to play to shoot. This girl is so cool. Did you see her shooting posture just now? She's so cool. Some of the boys who were naturally fond of guns almost jumped up in excitement when they saw this scene. Brother Lei, who had shot 32 targets in 1 minute, was already very good. But what about Yunjian? She had hit 203 targets in 1 minute. How could they compete with such results? Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter. Didn't you see that? She didn't miss a single bullet just now. This girl must be a sharpshooter. The audience was in an uproar, which even attracted the attention of a group of people who were playing other games. At this time, Yunjian, who had gently put down the imitation gun in her hand, stood up and walked towards Brother Lei with a smile. Chapter 100. Brother Lei thought that Yunjian was joking. Who would have thought that she really wanted to cripple his hand? Was she joking? No matter what, Brother Lei and his gang were all ruffians and gangsters in the society. Fighting with others was something that they often did. Brother Lei had planned to stop today. After all, he was in the wrong. However, Yunjian dared to say that. Hence, out of his pride as a man, Brother Lei's expression changed. He looked at Yunjian and scolded. F***CK. Whose hand do you want to cripple? Just based on a bunch of scrawny little brats like you? You want to fight, right? Was it going to be a gang fight? Hearing that Brother Lei was angry, some of the people who were watching the show were afraid of being implicated. They quickly took a few steps back. It was true that the young lady had won, but Brother Lei and his gang were not people who kept their word. More importantly, Brother Lei's group of brothers had never lost to anyone in a fight. Moreover, Brother Lei had someone backing him up. Rumor had it that Brother Lei had brought a group of people who called themselves brothers and beat up a person until he was completely paralyzed and could not take care of himself for the rest of his life. Later, although this group of people was taken away by the police, they were released safely in less than half a day. What else could it be other than having someone backing him up? Someone kindly reminded Yunjian, "Young lady, hurry up and leave. Don't force yourself." Brother Lei obviously heard the murmurs of the people around him. He seemed to be in a better position. His pair of malicious eyes stared at Yunjian's face. Then, he smiled evilly and said, "But if you apologize to me and accompany me tonight, I will forgive you." The way he addressed himself as brother made Yunjian feel even more disgusted with Brother Lei and his gang. "I only want one of your hands." Yunjian smiled. Although there was a smile on her face, it was a fake one. What? Brother Lei seemed to have not heard what Yunjian said. He was shocked again. He thought to himself that this young girl must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's guts. He had given her face, but not only did she not back down, she even wanted to confront him head-on. Su Hao Cole, who was watching from the side, didn't say anything. He didn't want to help Yun Jian either. He was the son of Longmen City's mafia boss. If this identity was revealed, Brother Lei and the rest could only beg for mercy. However, Su Hao Cole narrowed his eyes and watched. He wanted to know how Yun Jian would deal with this matter. He was unable to stand in front of Yun Jian due to Su Hao Cole's tug, but he knew that Zhu would definitely step in if Xiao Jian did not have the ability to handle Brother Lei and his gang. So he was less worried. Io, this young lady's marksmanship is accurate. But isn't she digging her own grave by challenging Brother Lei? The people around saw this and couldn't help but mutter. Such a good girl is going to be defiled by Brother Lei. The surrounding crowd avoided Brother Lei's ears and made a commotion. So what if Yun Jian was a sharpshooter? To them, even if she was a sharpshooter, she would still be in trouble when she went up against a rascal like Brother Lei. Left hand, Yun Jian studied Brother Lei, not intimidated by his intimidating aura at all. What? Brother Lei was even more confused. It was not only Brother Lei who was confused, everyone else was equally confused. What left hand? Yun Jian had already taken 2 large strides toward Brother Lei. Then, her movements were simple and extremely fast. Before Brother Lei and his gang could react, Yun Jian's hand was as nimble as a snake as it coiled around Brother Lei's left wrist. Crack! There was a crisp sound of bone breaking. Before Brother Lei could react, Yun Jian was already in front of him and his left arm was broken by Yun Jian. Excruciating pain shot through his body as Brother Lei cried out in agony. My hand. The entire process took less than 3 seconds. The group was stunned as their gazes landed on the devil who was all smiles but could break a person's arm with a smile. The girl grinned innocently and said, "He pointed at me with his left hand just now." Chapter 101. The crowd, who had thought that Yun Jian was a pretty, thin, and weak girl, looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Their eyes were wide open. How is this girl thin and weak? Just because Brother Lei pointed his finger at her, she crippled one of his hands. Such a domineering way of doing things made everyone extremely shocked. She was a demon that was 10 times scarier than Brother Lei. Yun Jian narrowed her beautiful eyes. She glanced sideways at Brother Lei and his gang, who were staring at her. She smirked and said provocatively, "Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to roll on the ground like him?" As she spoke, she pointed at Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and smiled like a flower. When Brother Lei's buddies heard what Yun Jian said, and with Brother Lei as a precedent, they felt chills running down their spines when they looked at Yun Jian smirk again. How would they dare to stay there? Hence, the group of people lifted Brother Lei, who was rolling on the ground in pain, and disappeared from the spot at lightning speed. The 2 men who carried Brother Lei out of the room were almost tripped by the door because they were in a hurry. They managed to dodge the door and ran faster than a monkey. The group of people who were watching the show laughed loudly. Who would have thought that Brother Lei and his gang would be the ones who ran away in the end? Yun Jian's eyes lit up. She turned to look at Yun Yi and the rest and asked, "Do you guys still want to play games?" Everyone instantly shook their heads like waves. What a joke. With a godly sharpshooter like Yun Jian as a foil, wouldn't they be looking for trouble and deliberately embarrassing themselves if they want to play games? However, the group of people didn't expect that Yun Yi's sister was not only good at shooting, but she was also so cool when she beat people up. When Yun Jian broke Brother Lei's wrist just now, no one saw clearly how she did it. After bidding farewell to Su Hao Cole and the rest, Yun Jian and Yun Yi were walking back to the villa. It was almost 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The night breeze blew past. As Yun Yi had given his jacket to Yun Jian, he was shivering in his short-sleeved shirt. "Brother, I just exercised. My whole body is warm now. You can wear this jacket yourself." Yun Jian took off his jacket and returned it to Yun Yi. She didn't allow Yun Yi to say anything else. Yun Yi opened his mouth, his handsome lips breaking into a smile as his thin lips brushed lightly. His sister was concerned about him. How could he reject his sister's good intentions? Hence, Yun Yi hurriedly put his jacket back on. When they returned to the villa, The lights were still on the house was still on the house. Dong Ruan was an official, so he rarely returned home. Sometimes he would even stay out all night because he was busy. Her son, on the other hand, had been entrusted to a teacher in an aristocratic school, so she was rarely home. Chin Yiru, on the other hand, had gotten a job as a waitress in a restaurant. Her salary was much higher than when she was working in a textile factory. In comparison, a waitress job only required her to carry the dishes and clear the table. It was just that she got off work later, around 10:30 p.m. After all, Chin Yiru did not have a degree, so Dong Ruan could only arrange for her to work in a place like this. Now that Yun Jian and his family were staying at Dong Ruan's place, it added to the liveliness of the house. Xiao Jian, I'm going back to my room to rest first. I'll be back in school tomorrow morning. It's our monthly exam in a few days. I can only calm down by revising in school. He said to Yun Jian once he reached home and went upstairs to rest. He was serious in his studies and went upstairs to rest. Not long after Yun left, a tall figure came down from upstairs. It was none other than Ce. It was only then that Yun Jian remembered that she had yet to return the car she borrowed from him. Just as she was about to explain, Ce's beautiful lips beat her to it. He asked first instead of asking about the car's whereabouts. You just came back? Ce frowned slightly when he saw Yun Jian's bare arms. The short sleeves could not hide the coldness on her arms. Ce took off his jacket and tossed it to Yun Jian, saying coldly, It's cold at night, and you're wearing so little. My auntie will blame me if you catch a cold. As he spoke, he tilted his chiseled face slightly. The last sentence was obviously made up by him. Chapter 102. Yun Jian was dumbfounded. She paused and caught the jacket Ce tossed to her. She hesitated before putting on slowly and said blankly, I've left your car with my friend. I'll return it to you tomorrow. Ce nodded and glanced at Yun Jian with his deep gaze before turning away. Without even a word of farewell, his tall and handsome figure disappeared from Yun Jian's sight. Yun Jian was stunned again. She pressed her dry lips together and grinned. The next morning, Yun Jian had Snake Lizard drive Ce's Lamborghini back and return it to him along with the car keys. Yun Jian then went out with Snake Lizard. She had just settled down in Longmen City, but she had decided to start a business in Longmen City a long time ago. Yun Jian had always been a person who took responsibility for her actions. Since she had said it, she would do it without any hesitation. Zhang Jifan and the rest had been brought to Longmen City by Yun Jian before Yun Jian came. They were even staying in a rented house in Longmen City. Of course, all of this was secretly arranged by Yun Jian. Chin Yiru and Yun were completely unaware of it. Country Z's economy had just taken off, and the people's lives were gradually moving from poverty to prosperity. In the past, people used to travel on foot, but in this era, it was gradually being replaced by vehicles like bicycles and motorcycles. A vehicle like a car could only be bought by a few wealthy families. However, as the times changed, cars would be brought to the world stage sooner or later and replace them as the most convenient means of transportation. In other words, every household would be able to afford a car one day. Of course, all of this was inferred by Yun Jian based on the current situation and business trends. She had also fact-checked it. Places like Europe and America that were economically advanced and had a high standard of living were gradually developing in this direction. In spite of this, it was proven that Yun Jian's inference was accurate. Of course, this was a story for another time. Yun Jian planned to start a car marketing company. The idea might seem absurd. She was just an underage girl who was not even 18 years old, yet she wanted to start a car store. However, it was undeniable that starting a company required investment, and Yun Jian had the money. She had channels to import cars from home and abroad as well. When Yun Jian told Zhang Jifan and the rest about her idea, Zhang Jifan and the rest felt their eyelids twitch, and they almost fainted from shock. What? You want to start a car company? Zhang Jifan stuttered as he looked at Yun Jian in shock and fear. In this era, anyone who owned a motorbike at home could use it to look cool. A car was simply a symbol of the rich. What's more, to run such a car company, the number of cars needed was more than just a few. Secondly, they needed to have working capital. Secondly, they needed to go through the application process, and they needed to have a sales store. These were all essential procedures. Yunjian nodded and leaned her slender legs against the corner of the table. She smiled naturally at Zhang Jifan and said, "I've said that you don't need to worry about the company's investment. What you need to do is to manage this company for me." How could she not make money when there was a chance for her to make it? Only with investment could she make a profit. She, Yunjian, would never do a losing business. Me? Zhang Jifan pointed at himself and was stunned again. "It's you." Yunjian narrowed her eyes and wiped her red lips. "And this company will be registered under your name." After a pause, Yunjian exuded a confident glow. Zhang Jifan and the rest could not help but look at her in a new light. "The name of the new company will be..." Yunjian raised her eyes slightly and looked ahead with a smile. "New start. A new life, a new start." Chapter 103. Zhang Jifan was stupefied. He did not expect Yunjian to trust him so much. Yunjian was fully responsible for the investment, so he did not have to worry about the company's startup. However, he would still have to put his name on the company when it was registered. Such a good thing was hard to come by even in 8 lifetimes. At the same time, Zhang Jifan was certain of one thing. Whether he could walk this path with Yunjian or not, he would not be disloyal. "Sister Jian, don't worry. I, Zhang Jifan, guarantee you that I'll do my best." Zhang Jifan promised Yunjian heavily. Ever since they were taken in by Yunjian that day, Zhang Jifan and his buddies had regarded Yunjian as their boss and called her Sister Jian. If Zhang Jifan became the company's leader, his buddies would naturally be the company's pioneers as well. The buddies looked at Yunjian passionately and promised in unison, "Sister Jian, we promise that we won't be disloyal. We swear to follow you to the end." Yunjian nodded with a smile and told Zhang Jifan subtly, "Send in the company's application form as soon as possible. Also, keep an eye out for the storefront and let me know when you find it. You don't have to worry about anything else." Zhang Jifan nodded. Coming out of the rented apartment where Zhang Jifan and his buddies stayed, Yunjian and Snake, Lizard walked on the road. "You're still as greedy for money as before. You own a few major international corporations, but you still don't let go of any chance to earn money, Snake." Lizard walked beside Yunjian and teased Yunjian when she did not say anything just now. Yunjian suddenly grinned and glanced at Snake. Lizard from the corner of her eyes with a hint of teenage innocence. "If one doesn't love money, the devil takes the hindmost. Who can say no to money?" Snake. Lizard was a rather aloof person. Hearing Yunjian's words, she could not help smiling, but keep quiet. On Monday, Yunjian returned to school. Running a company couldn't be rushed, especially when it came to the application process. At this moment, Yunjian was already sitting in class. She twirled the black pen in her hand in boredom and looked around leisurely. Once class ended, the 2 clowns, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng, came running to Yunjian. "Hey, master, it's been so many days. You should teach your disciples some powerful skills, right? Just like that move of yours last time. You didn't even need to look at the ground to know that I was going to hook you with my leg, and you even had the time to kick me back. That move is really cool." Zhang Xiaofeng's handsome face moved closer, and he said to Yunjian with admiration and admiration. Chen Sini pushed Zhang Xiaofeng away and said to Yunjian with a smile, Don't mind him. Jian, let's talk among ourselves." Since Yunjian transferred to Class A of E High School, there had been plenty of people who tried to pick on her, but they were all blocked by Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini, so she had been living an easy life. Even if she did not look for trouble herself, sometimes trouble would come knocking on her door. Yunjian noticed a heated gaze in the classroom that had been staring at her for a long time, but she pretended not to see it. It was just that the owner of the gaze could not hold it in anymore as he walked over to Yunjian. Lu Rongrong came over to look at Yunjian and asked in annoyance, "Hey, who was the person who came to pick you up last Friday?" It was not Lu Rongrong's fault for asking. Si's looks were too alluring. His handsome face was bound to mesmerize many girls. Yun Jian looked up at Lu Rongrong before lowering her gaze to meet Chen Sini's eyes, ignoring her. Chapter 104. F*CK, Lu Rongrong. What do you mean by this? Zhang Xiaofeng was the first to stand up for Yun Jian when he saw Lu Rongrong throwing her weight around in front of his master. That's right. What's wrong with my Jian being picked up after school? What does it have to do with you? Why should I tell you? Who do you think you are? Chen Sini scolded Lu Rongrong before Zhang Xiaofeng could. Lu Rongrong had always been a spoiled brat. She was flashy, but not practical. She pointed at Chen Sini angrily and opened her mouth. However, she stomped her feet and could not say anything. In the end, she snorted and ran away. Yun Jian could not help grinning at the sight. The morning sun shone in through the window and refracted on Yun Jian's rosy cheeks, making her feel warmer and more comfortable. It had been a long time since she felt so comfortable. Every time someone tried to pick a fight in school, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng would chase them away with their sharp tongues like this. They were adorable. Lu Rongrong really thinks she's some spoiled brat. What's she being so cocky for? How shameless. Chen Sini was the first to flare up when Yun Jian was infuriated. She huffed and sat down opposite Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng chuckled dryly as well before he looked around as if he remembered something. He turned to whisper mysteriously to Yun Jian and Chen Sini. Do you know? The black market is holding an underground tournament this Saturday. It's at Longtu Mountain, not far from our school. How about it? Do you want to go and watch? Heh. I can guarantee that the lineup will be spectacular. To convince Yun Jian to go, Zhang Xiaofeng emphasized, and I heard that it's a bet between the mafia boss of Longmen City and a foreigner. As a boy, Zhang Xiaofeng was especially interested in this kind of fighting competition. That was why after Yun Jian showed off her skills, he shamelessly asked to be her disciple. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows when she heard the words mafia boss. The mafia boss was Su Haokole's father, Su Zetian. Strictly speaking, Su Zetian was a member of the Kosha mercenaries. Su Zetian wants to bet with the foreigners in a challenge tournament. Upon hearing this news, Yun Jian recalled the first time she met Snake Lizard and Su Zetian since her rebirth. Su Zetian had a favor to ask of Snake Lizard. Could this be what he was referring to? She pursed her dry lips to moisten them and said, I'll go. Zhang Xiaofeng snickered, thinking that his words had worked, and laughed even more cheerfully. Yun Jian's lips curled into a faint smile, which made people feel as if they understood her. She was devilishly charming. Just like that, a week passed by peacefully. When she returned home from school on Friday, Yun Jian received the news that Zhang Jifan had approved the company's application. He had also asked for some connections and found a suitable store. The location of the store was great. It was big enough for cars to be displayed, and the location was well connected. When the car store was opened in the future, it would not be inconspicuous due to its remote location. Since it was a new piece of land, and there were many merchants who wanted to buy the store, the organizer decided to use the auction format. Bidding, and the highest bidder would win. The auction would be held tonight. When Yun Jian heard the news, she only told Zhang Jifan, "Get ready tonight and go to the auction with me." Chapter 105. This auction was organized by the organizers, so more than 1 or 2 shops and plots of land were up for sale. In spite of it, Yun Jian only needed the store. Because the auction was a big event, Zhang Jifan deliberately dressed himself up before going. He changed his appearance from that of a hoodlum to a suit, which made him look like a big boss. Before this, he was just a hoodlum with a loan shark. As usual, Yun Jian tied her hair into a high ponytail. She had a good foundation, so even if she didn't put on makeup, her facial features were still exquisite and delicate. Her eyelashes were long and narrow, and when she blinked, she gave people a feeling that she had a spiritual aura. She looked pure and innocent, but the slight curve of her lips made people unable to help but notice her. Before leaving, she knocked on Si's door next to hers. Knock, knock, knock. After 3 knocks, The door opened. When the door opened, Yun Jian smelled an elegant fragrance. It was faint, but it made her feel good. See, he appeared at the door. He was dressed in casual clothes, and his wet hair stuck to his handsome face. There was an unfathomable smile on his exquisite face. It was obvious that he had just taken a shower. What is it? Siyi's lips curled into a beautiful curve. What is it? His magnetic voice was a little hoarse, but it was full of charm. Yun Jian looked at him with a smile and licked her lips. Lend me your car again. Siyi's starry eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. He turned his body slightly, and his tall body surrounded Yun Jian's thin and weak body. She could feel his breath coming from above. My car isn't that easy to borrow. How are you going to compensate me? As he spoke, he looked at Yun Jian from head to toe with ill intentions. It had to be said that although Yun Jian's body was thin and weak, she was still lean in the right places. She had developed very well, and there were signs of her curvy body. He believed that in less than 2 years, she would definitely be a great beauty who could charm a large group of people to death with just a glance. When Yun Jian heard this, she smiled and glanced at Siyi from the corner of her eyes. How do you want me to make it up to you? As she spoke, she flipped her hair and took a step closer to Siyi. However, before she could even get close to Siyi, Yun Jian's delicate fists turned into eagle claws. She launched a sneak attack at Siyi's waist. Her speed was so fast that normal people would not have expected it. Seduction was one of the essential skills of a secret agent. In her previous life, although Yun Jian had never been in love with a man and had never even been intimate with a man, she would still make use of her lust to lower the enemy's guard and kill them in one move. She obviously did not intend to kill Siyi. She only wanted to take the car keys from Siyi's waist. However, Yun Jian did not expect that Siyi would be able to dodge her attack with a sidestep. His speed was actually faster than hers. Although Yun Jian had been training her body since her rebirth, her physical strength could not be compared to her previous life. Even so, when Siyi dodged her attack, Yun Jian was stunned. When Siyi dodged to the side, Yun Jian could tell that even if she had faced him in her previous life, she would not have been able to escape unscathed. Yun Jian suddenly curled her lips. She twisted her hand and threw herself into Siyi's firm chest. The fresh fragrance of a young girl drifted into his nose. Siyi, who had never been so intimate with a woman, was stunned. Yun Jian took advantage of this moment to reach out and take the car keys from Siyi's waist. She then left Siyi's chest in a flash and ran far away. She could not help but turn back to leave a smile. I'll take the car keys, thanks. As she spoke, Yun Jian had already run down the stairs. Chapter 106. On the other hand, Yun Jian had driven the Lamborghini to the entrance of Zhang Jifan's rental apartment and was waiting for him. When Zhang Jifan saw the Lamborghini, his eyes trembled violently. Obviously, he was shocked. There were only a few types of cars that he had seen on a daily basis. It was especially so in a developing city like Longmen City, where sports cars were only affordable for the wealthy. In normal business, those who had some money would usually drive cars of brands like Santana, Honda, and Mazda. They were all cars that consumed low fuel, were affordable, and had average appearances. This era had yet to reach the era where cars were everywhere. Naturally, it was the best starting point to start a car marketing business. Therefore, when Zhang Jifan saw the modified supersports car, the Lamborghini, there was an irrepressible glint in his eyes. More than that, it was shock. Sister Jian, where did you get this car? After Zhang Jifan got into the car, he was still stiff, not daring to touch anything in the car, afraid that he would break something. In the end, he could not help asking Yun Jian. I borrowed it. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and did not explain further. She then started the engine and sped away under Zhang Jifan's horrified gaze. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the auction. The auction was coordinated and organized by various major sponsors. It was a grand occasion, and not just anyone could enter. If one did not dress appropriately, they would not even be able to enter the auction. Yun Jian did not have an invitation, so she drove the Lamborghini to show her status. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to enter the auction venue. How would he be able to buy that piece of land and open a car dealership? Of course, Yunjian would not allow the possibility of being stopped at the entrance. The auction was held in the best location in Longmen City, the Fashion Building. At the moment, at the entrance of the Fashion Building, Yunjian drove the black Lamborghini and drifted past the entrance before she slammed on the brakes and parked in front of the building. She got out of the car and walked into the building with Zhang Jifan. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. The appearance of the Lamborghini caused an uproar among the crowd. In this era, it was already very good to be able to drive a car. Although those who came to attend the auction today were wealthy and respectable bosses who stood at the pinnacle of Longmen City, it was rare to find someone who could afford a sports car. This Bolangini was a modified supercar, and it was an international limited edition. There were only a few of them in the world. Many of the people present knew about this car, but they had never had the chance to see it in real life. Now that they saw it, they couldn't help but be stunned. Which big shot had come to Longmen City? However, when Yunjian got out of the driver's seat of the Bolangini, everyone gasped. Heavens! Could it be that this super sports car belonged to a young girl who hadn't even reached 18 yet? At this time, Yunjian had been respectfully invited in by the receptionist at the entrance of the Fashion Building. The auction had yet to begin, but the people standing around were all important figures in the business world or the government. All of them were using such an occasion to find people who could get along well with them. Officials protecting each other and businessmen benefiting each other had already become a social trend. Yunjian was particularly eye-catching standing here because the people standing here were either mature women or mature men who were all around middle-aged. She was the only one who was young. There was only one reason why the people around her were looking at her. One must have some status to enter the auction or know someone important to be brought in. The fact that this young girl could enter meant that she was somewhat capable. Yunjian, under everyone's gaze, an untimely low male voice suddenly rang. Turning, Yunjian saw a face that was both unfamiliar and familiar at the same time. Zhang Taijun, her uncle in name. She had met him once when Su Hao Cole was assassinated by a sniper the other day. Chapter 107. The moment Zhang Taijun saw Yunjian, he was really stunned. He didn't have a deep impression of Yunjian. In the past, Yunjian was always soft and weak. Even if she was bullied, she wouldn't protest. But that day when he met Yunjian at the hotel, she was the first to react. She pushed a few people away and dodged the sniper's bullet. At that time, Zhang Taijun was extremely shocked and frightened. Of course, at that time, he was afraid of the sniper and ran away, so he didn't have time to care about Yunjian. Today, he was able to enter the auction venue because Zhang Taijun pulled a lot of strings to squeeze into the venue. We did not expect, however, was that Yunjian was here as well. She actually had a way to sneak in here. Not just anyone could enter the auction hall. With Yunjian's identity and status, she didn't have the ability to enter this place at all. Yunjian glanced at Zhang Taijun from the corner of her eyes and didn't say anything. In her impression, this nominal uncle of hers didn't care about her family. Moreover, when relatives gathered for dinner, he would show off in front of her family. After all, among the group of relatives, Zhang Taijun was more successful. He started his own business from scratch and finally became a small boss. Among the group of relatives and friends, he felt that he was different and had a sense of superiority. When Qin Yiru borrowed money from his family, Zhang Taijun was very embarrassed and fanned the flames. He was very narrow-minded. Yunjian, why are you here? Although Zhang Taijun and Yunjian were relatives, they weren't close. He even called her by her full name. Zhang Taijun obviously didn't believe that Yunjian had the ability to enter such a high-end venue. He directly assumed that Yunjian had sneaked in from some small corner of the Fashion Building. His tone wasn't very polite, and without waiting for Yunjian to reply, Zhang Taijun frowned and continued to shout at Yunjian in the tone of an elder. There's going to be an auction here. The auction is about to start. How did you sneak in here? You should be more sensible. You have to know your limits, even though you're already so old. This is not a place where you can come and go as you please. If there's nothing else, then hurry up and leave. He scolded Yunjian for a while, but Zhang Taijun wanted her to leave as soon as possible. This was not a place for a child like her. Zhang Jifan, who was standing behind Yun Jian, pursed his lips and rolled his eyes at Zhang Taijun in disdain. Yun Jian raised her brow and didn't argue with Zhang Taijun. Since Zhang Taijun would also appear at the auction, some things could no longer be hidden. She would never give up the store that she had set her eyes on because of some irrelevant people or things. This was not her style. Yun Jian's pure pink cheeks became moist as she revealed a charming and beautiful smile. She said to Zhang Taijun, "I'm here to participate in the auction." "Nonsense." Zhang Taijun's face sank. His face turned gloomy. "This is not a place where a child like you should come to. Hurry up and leave before the auction starts." Just as Zhang Taijun said this, the middle-aged man standing next to Zhang Taijun tugged at Zhang Taijun's coat and pointed at the door. A group of people looked towards the door. They saw a group of middle-aged men in suits walking in from outside the door. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. Standing at the front was Mayor Gu, whom Yun Jian had met at Su Haokol's birthday party. At this moment, Mayor Gu was surrounded by a large group of people who were fawning over him. The moment Zhang Taijun saw Mayor Gu, he couldn't care less about Yun Jian. He suppressed his emotions and walked towards Mayor Gu with the middle-aged man who had tugged at his coat just now. This was the reason why Zhang Taijun had tried so hard to sneak into the auction. He had been waiting for Mayor Gu. Naturally, he had something to ask of Mayor Gu. Mayor Gu, who was surrounded by a group of people, turned his head and accidentally he saw Yun Jian, who was particularly eye-catching. Mayor Gu pushed through the crowd and walked over. Seeing that Mayor Gu had actually seen him, Zhang Taijun stood still and didn't dare to lift his feet. He held his breath. Mayor Gu had actually noticed him? Zhang Taijun suddenly looked like he was flattered. When Mayor Gu brushed past him to greet Yun Jian, however, Zhang Taijun felt like he had been struck by a bolt of lightning on a sunny day. Chapter 108. Mayor Gu was the mayor of Longmen City and held the highest position in the city. Under normal circumstances, only others would try to curry favor with him. Mayor Gu himself didn't like the bribery between bureaucrats, so he didn't pay much attention to others. What did they see today? Mayor Gu personally greeting and befriending a teenage girl? Who was this girl? How could Mayor Gu value her so much? Zhang Taijun watched the scene unfolding before him with a face that looked like he had eaten dog poop. Yun Jian knew Mayor Gu. More importantly, Mayor Gu seemed to be friendly to Yun Jian. He was shocked and regretful. Recalling what he had said just now, he felt like he was showing off in front of an expert. Yun Jian was not reserved like others when she faced Mayor Gu. She smiled easily and looked natural as she pressed her lips together and said, "Yes, what a coincidence. It is. Girl, are you here for the auction too? Do you want to go into the hall with me now?" Mayor Gu invited with a squint. Mayor Gu might look aloof from worldly affairs, but he had been in the government for so many years and had successfully held the mayor's position for so many years. Other things aside, he had the ability to judge people. Despite her young age, Mayor Gu had to pay attention to her based on this fact alone. Even the mafia boss had to bow down to Yun Jian. In short, even Snake Lizard had to listen to Yun Jian. Was Yun Jian really just an ordinary girl? Mayor Gu rationally chose to stand with Yun Jian. His instinct told him that this girl was not ordinary. When the crowd heard Mayor Gu's invitation to Yun Jian, there was another uproar. Yun Jian would not reject having Mayor Gu leading the team. It would save her a lot of trouble. She nodded and said, "All right." Yun Jian then gestured to Zhang Jifan, indicating for him to enter the hall behind her. Zhang Jifan was dumbfounded. He had never thought that an insignificant person like him would be invited by Mayor Gu one day. This was all thanks to Yun Jian. Just as Yun Jian and Mayor Gu were about to enter the auction hall, Zhang Taijun's shameless voice rang out. "Wait!" Zhang Taijun ran over and stopped in front of Mayor Gu. Although he didn't understand why Mayor Gu knew Yun Jian and valued her so much, now was not the time to talk about it. Mayor Gu, hello. I'm Xiao Jian's uncle. You can call me Xiao Zhang." As Zhang Taijun spoke, he pointed out his relationship with Yun Jian. Then he continued, "It's like this. my friend, and I want to apply for approval for our recent cooperation. Zhang Taijun wanted to make use of Yun Jian's relationship to talk to Mayor Gu, so that he could finish his vicious task. But before he could finish speaking, Yun Jian beat him to it. Yun Jian watched as Mayor Gu introduced Zhang Taijun word by word. She smiled and said, "He is indeed my mother's sister's husband." There was an inexplicable estrangement in his words. That one sentence sealed Zhang Tiejuan's fate. Mayor Gu understood what Yun Jian meant. If they were relatives, how could they be close if they did not even address each other as uncle? Mayor Gu waved his hand. Since Zhang Taijun was not someone Yun Jian cared about, what right did he have to give him face? Hey, let's talk next time. I have something urgent to discuss with the girl. Mayor Gu waved at Zhang Taijun. Then, he followed Yun Jian into the auction hall. Only Zhang Taijun, who was exasperated, was left with a sour expression. There was only one word left in his mind. It's over. Chapter 109. Even so, Zhang Taijun still shamelessly followed the crowd into the auction hall. A person like Zhang Taijun naturally wouldn't be here to buy properties or shops. He was just here to join in the fun, and his target today was only Mayor Gu. However, what happened next was completely unexpected. Yun Jian was already sitting in the VIP seats in the auction hall with Mayor Gu. She was only qualified to sit in the VIP seats because she was accompanied by Mayor Gu. Zhang Zhifan was flattered. He sat in the VIP seats and forcefully suppressed his nervous emotions that were about to burst out. He pretended to be calm, but in fact he was so excited that he couldn't express it with words. When the guests were all seated, the auction officially began. The host of the auction this time was an enchanting woman. This woman swayed her butt, showing off her pair of white and slender legs that were exposed. She stood in the middle of the host. Honorable guests, greetings to you all. I'm the host of this auction. You can call me Big Sister Lee. Long story short, let's get to the main topic. This auction will still follow the old rules. All the auction locations will be quoted after the auction starts, and the old rule of the highest bidder wins. Big Sister Lee swayed her butt as she walked. She used a pleasant voice to say beautiful words, but it was enough to make some of the men present addicted to the sight. Fortunately, Big Sister Lee wasn't here to show off. After a few words, the auction officially began. At the beginning of the auction, the shops that were sold at a cheaper price and were not in a good location. Yun Jian naturally wasn't interested. Mayor Gu, on the other hand, was sizing her up all the time. He even asked a few irrelevant questions from time to time. "Little girl, where did you go to school?" Yun Jian continued to smile and replied him, "Dragon Gate No. 1 High School." "Oh." Mayor Gu made a strange sound and laughed. He said to Yun Jian, "Then we're really fated. My grandson is also studying at Longman No. 1 Middle School. I don't know if you've heard of that brat's name." At this point, Mayor Gu did not care whether Yun Jian was interested in this matter or not. He directly introduced his grandson to Yun Jian. There was a hint of pride in his tone, but also a hint of helplessness. "That brat is called Gu Heng. If you meet him in No. 1 Middle School, don't go easy on him in the future. Teach him a good lesson for me." From Mayor Gu's tone, it was obvious that he wanted to build a good relationship with Yun Jian. Zhang Zhifan, who sat beside Yun Jian, was stupefied once more when he heard that a prominent figure like Mayor Gu was trying to curry favor with them. Yun Jian, she had such great ability. Yun Jian merely curled her lips into a faint smile and did not directly reply to Mayor Gu's words. She was stunned. Mayor Gu had mentioned his grandson and even asked her to teach him a lesson the next time she met him, not to be soft-hearted. It was really strange to have a grandfather like Mayor Gu. Suddenly, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at the auction stage. She pursed her lips slightly and spat out a line of words from her red lips. It's finally here. The area that she was preparing to bid on was finally being auctioned off. Mayor Gu was stunned. What? However, the latter half of Yun Jian's sentence shocked Mayor Gu for a long time. Yun Jian leaned back in her seat lazily and looked at Sister Lee, who was speaking eloquently on the auction stage. Her eyes did not look at Mayor Gu. "I want the shop." Mayor Gu followed Yun Jian's gaze and listened to Sister Lee's explanation. It was a very good area, and the price was very high. Ordinary people could not afford this piece of land. However, from Yunjian's tone, she wanted to bid for this area. Chapter 110. Storefront transfer meant that the owner would sell the store to the other party. In other words, as long as the storefront was bought, it would be a personal property in the future, and there would be no need to pay rent. That was why the storefront Yunjian had her eyes on store number 1 of Dongshanport, had a starting bid of 2 million. 2 million was not a small sum in this day and age. Ordinary people who had assets of more than 1 million were already considered to be in the upper echelons of society. Hence, once the starting bid was announced, many who were interested in the storefront flinched. In spite of it, there were still quite a number of rich people who came today, so someone quickly made a bid. 201 million. A middle-aged man raised the price. Zhang Taijun, who was sitting at the back corner of the auction house, shuddered when he heard the number. He was running a small business and could be considered one of the wealthiest families in Xinjiang town. However, when he came to a place like Longmen City that was filled with hidden talents, what he could do was insignificant. Hence, he was instantly in awe of these rich people. The only thing he could not figure out was how Yunjian was able to gain Mayor Gu's favor. Why was Mayor Gu so friendly to her? 202 million. Someone followed up immediately after the middle-aged man made his bid. Following that, the people who made their bids rose and fell, but there was not much of a fluctuation. It was usually a 10 to 20,000 increment. Mayor Gu's astute eyes were fixed on Yunjian all along. Mayor Gu was someone who could not keep his thoughts to himself, so he asked Yunjian directly, "Girl, why aren't you bidding since you want to buy this storefront?" Zhang Zhifan, who sat beside Yunjian, had the same question, but he dared not ask. Yunjian's reply was a simple word: wait. Mayor Gu was full of doubts again, but in the end, he swallowed them down. Store number 1 of Dongshanport was a storefront that many big bosses were fighting for, so the bidding price was gradually rising. It had even reached close to 3 million. In the end, some bosses who thought it was not worth it gave up, leaving 2 of them to fight for it. 1 million. Mo Shilong, you old thing, don't fight with me. One of them had obviously reached his limit. He couldn't help but yell at the other person who had been forcing him to raise the price. 2 million. The big boss named Mo Shilong still insisted and refused to compromise. The 2 of them were competing with each other to increase the price, and neither of them was willing to give in. Zhang Taijun, who was sitting in the corner, gasped. He muttered in his heart. Today, he had finally witnessed the competition between the big bosses. That was not something that could be measured in thousands or tens of thousands. A few million for a store. He had never seen such a scene before. After the auction was over, he would be considered a person who had gained a lot of knowledge. Perhaps he could even brag about it to his friends and relatives. 4 million. The hot-tempered big boss had begun to blow his beard and glare. Gritting his teeth, he fiercely quoted a price. This was his bottom line. 401 million. The big boss called Mo Shilong was still competing, but his expression was not any better. Spending 4 million just to buy a store was naturally not worth it, so the hot-tempered big boss had to give up. I'll give it to you, give it to you. Mo Shilong, don't let me get the chance to deal with you next time. The hot-tempered big boss yelled at Mo Shilong. This old man will wait. Mo Shilong snorted coldly. Finally, a calm expression appeared on his face. Although the price had been raised quite a bit, he finally got it. After all, other than the hot-tempered big boss, no one else present could compete with him, just as Elder Sisterly smiled and was about to count down the last 3 seconds. Chapter 111. 14.01 million. As soon as Yunjian said that, everyone was shocked. They all looked at the little girl sitting next to Mayor Gu in disbelief. They thought that the little girl was only qualified to enter the auction because she knew Mayor Gu. Who would have thought that she would bid and increase the price by 10 million? The crowd was in an uproar and focused all their attention on Yunjian. At that moment, Zhang Taijun, who was sitting respectfully in the corner, suddenly tensed up. He glared at Yun Jian with wide eyes, his expression complicated. In a large-scale auction like this, if one could not pay the price after bidding, they would have to bear legal responsibility. Therefore, since Yun Jian had the courage to bid, it meant that she could definitely afford it. God, more than 10 million. Zhang Taijun was trembling all over at that moment. All of his family's passbooks added up to less than 200,000. His family's wealth was enough to make people envious in Xinjiang town, but he did not expect that someone would spend more than 10 million to buy a storefront at an auction. The most important thing was that this person who made everyone dumbfounded was his niece in name. Moreover, she was the poorest among all his relatives and friends in the family. Cough, cough, cough. Sisterly could not react for a long time. Fortunately, she was an old hand at auctions and knew how to ease the atmosphere. 14.01 million. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? Sisterly first tried to ease the atmosphere. Of course, many of the people present did not even have 14.01 million. Under such circumstances, who would continue to bid higher? Sisterly immediately started the countdown. 14.01 million going once, 14.01 million going twice, 14.01 million going thrice. Sold. Dongchun Harbor Store No. 1 was now completely under Yun Jian's name. Yun Jian showed a smile that did not match her age. It was as comfortable as a spring breeze. Dongchun Harbor Store No. 1 was originally auctioned for more than 10 million. It was definitely not a good deal. However, the person who bought this storefront was Yun Jian, so the situation was completely different. One had to know that she, Yun Jian, would never do a business where she would have to pay for herself if there was no profit to be made. Of course, she didn't want to compete with that group of people, so she directly raised the price by 1 degree and bought the store that was going to be auctioned. Because of this price, the others would definitely not raise the price anymore. Yun Jian paid all the fees in one go and signed a transfer contract with the owner of the previous store. The store was officially included in her name. By the time he was done, it was already late. After leaving the auction house, Mayor Gu tried to get close to Yun Jian. His intuition told him that this girl was destined to do great things. When Yun Jian left, Mayor Gu shouted after her, "Little girl, if you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. If you can't find me, you can look for my grandson, Gu Heng. Let that brat pass the message." At this time, Yun Jian had already walked quite a distance, but she still faintly smiled. Obviously, she heard Mayor Gu's voice. She walked over and got into the Lamborghini sports car. After Zhang Jifan sat down, she stepped on the accelerator and the car sped out like a flash of lightning. Zhang Taijun had already rushed out as fast as he could, but he still could not catch up with Yun Jian's pace in time. His whole body was trembling and trembling. He did not catch up. He was screwed. This was Zhang Tiejuan's first thought. At this moment, if Yun Jian was standing in front of him, as long as she forgave him, even if he had to kneel down, it would be worth it. For the first time, Zhang Taijun felt that he had failed. He finally understood why Yun Jian was admired by Mayor Gu. Because she had the capital. She had the ability. Chapter 112. Returning the car keys to C.E. Yun Jian went back to her room and logged into the web with her laptop to contact Alluring Demon. Alluring Demon was also her subordinate. Unlike Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard, Alluring Demon was in charge of legitimate forces and was involved in all aspects of business. Now that the storefront was settled, the next step was to decorate it. Yun Jian had handed the task to Zhang Jifan. Of course, it would take some time, at least a few months. Yun Jian wanted to obtain the channel to import cars into Country Z's Longmen City through Alluring Demon. Alluring Demon was indeed easy to handle. She had agreed to it just as Yun Jian mentioned it to her and had asked Yun Jian to leave the address. After contacting the dealer of imported cars, they would send the cars over after the storefront was renovated. There would be no shortage of imported cars and domestic cars. Once the matter was settled, Yun Jian fell asleep. It was a dreamless night. Early the next morning, Yun Jian received a message from Snake. Lizard when she came back from her workout. The phone she was holding was newly bought by Snake. Lizard to facilitate their communication. In her past life, Yunjian had a phone too, but she changed her number frequently to prevent anyone from tracking her through the system. Now that Yunjian was reborn and her residence was stable, there were no enemies from her past life who came looking for her. Naturally, she did not have to worry about her whereabouts being exposed due to her phone number. Snake. Lizard's message was simple. It was to ask Yunjian out to meet her at a coffee shop. Yunjian went to the meeting as scheduled. Snake. Lizard was already waiting for her on a chair beside a table in the coffee shop. When she saw Yunjian coming over, she could not help waving her hand. What's wrong? Yunjian sat opposite Snake. Lizard, her fingers brushing the table lightly as she asked. Snake. Lizard lowered her voice and told her, Sister Jian, I have some personal matters to attend to. I have to leave for a while. Ever since Snake. Lizard came to Longmen City, she had been calling Yunjian Sister Jian, like Zhang Jifan and others. Yunjian didn't think it was inappropriate. Okay. Yunjian nodded in acquiescence. Although Snake. Lizard was her subordinate, it was her freedom to leave for a while. This was something that Yunjian would never force. Also, there's one thing I need your help with. Snake. Lizard took a sip of the coffee in her teacup and said to Yunjian. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. In fact, she had already guessed something when Snake. Lizard spoke. The mafia boss of Longmen City, Su Zetian, is a member of the Kosha mercenaries. He's holding an underground tournament at Longtu Mountain a week later and has made a bet with the foreigners. Initially, Su Zetian had requested support from the organization to help him win the tournament. I came to Longmen City using this as an excuse. Now that I'm leaving, I hope Sister Jian can help with the tournament. Snake. Lizard looked at Yunjian and enunciated each word clearly. Her identity was not exposed to Su Zetian and his gang, or he would be scared half to death. A veteran of the Kosha mercenaries had come to Longmen City to help him in the tournament. To the public, Snake. Lizard had used this as an excuse to come to Longmen City to look for Yunjian. Of course, Snake. Lizard had left and could not find anyone to help Su Zetian win the tournament. So the first person that came to her mind was Yunjian. Su Zetian did not have much status in the Kosha mercenaries, but he was still a member. Okay, Yunjian agreed with a smile. She agreed to help. If Su Zetian was just a member of the Kosha mercenaries, Yunjian might not have agreed to help. After all, she was a global leader in her previous life, the big boss of the Kosha mercenaries. She was not at all interested in the petty squabbles of such insignificant people. However, Su Zetian was the father of her brother's best friend. Chapter 113. Snake. Lizard left as soon as she was done talking to Yunjian. Yunjian returned to her school life as well. During the self-study session on Monday night, the homeroom teacher returned to the class after the school meeting and announced something that all the teachers and students were looking forward to, the autumn outing. Ijong was the best junior high school in the city. It was also an aristocratic school that balanced work and rest. First of all, most of the students in the school were from rich families. The majority of them were rich and powerful. Coming to Ijong for these rich students, it was not enough to have a boring academic life. Therefore, the school had set up many activities. The spring outing was an event that most schools would organize once a year, while the autumn outing was only held in Ijong among all the junior high schools in Longmen City. It was the end of October. When Teacher Yu announced to the class that the school was going to hold an autumn outing, all the students in the class cheered excitedly. Wow, the autumn outing is finally here. Chun Sini turned to shake Yunjian's hand happily, almost stretching herself into a straight line in her excitement. Yunjian only had a slight smile on her face, making it impossible to tell if she was happy or worried. In spite of it, Chun Sini, who was too excited to notice Yunjian's current state. She was bouncing up and down in excitement. All the students in the class were in a state of excitement. It was only when Miss Yu clapped her hands to signal for the class to quieten down that they quieted down. The autumn outing was here. It was good news, but what everyone was looking forward to was, where would they go for the autumn outing this year? Therefore, When Miss Yu clapped her hands again to signal for silence, everyone looked at her with bated breath. Cough. I know how everyone is feeling now, but don't get too excited, Miss Yu said jokingly before regaining her composure. The autumn outing is next Monday morning, so when you return to school this weekend, you can bring the snacks that you want to eat over. The location of the autumn outing is a scenic forest park in the suburbs. The bus fare and entrance fee are 30 yuan in total. Don't forget to bring the money over when you return to school this weekend. There's also an open space in the forest park where you can organize a barbecue activity. Those who can afford it can bring their barbecue tools and ingredients over. The autumn outing this time should be attended by all the teachers and students of school. If your family can't make it, you can also apply not to go. Teacher Yu explained everything in one breath. Of course, after the students heard these words, their hearts began to stir. Most of the students who studied here came from rich families, so there were very few students who didn't participate in the spring and autumn excursions, which required them to pay for themselves. All right, stop quarreling. The evening's self-study session should continue as per normal. I'll say this up front. If anyone continues to quarrel in the self-study session, then don't even think about going to the autumn outing next week. Teacher Yu instructed the students to calm down. But at this moment, how could the students still calm down? Other than those whose families could not afford to go, the other students were all in high spirits. However, with Teacher Yu's harsh words in front of them, the students didn't dare to make any noise. Whoosh! Chun Sinny, who was sitting in front of Yun Jian, suddenly threw a ball of paper to Yun Jian. If there was someone behind them, they would definitely see that Yun Jian's eyes were fixed on the textbook on the table. She stretched out her hand to catch the ball of paper without even looking at it. Chapter 114. Yun Jian was automatically categorized as one of the students who had good grades but came from a poor family. Chun Sinny didn't mean any harm. Instead, she just wanted to help Yun Jian. She thought that Yun Jian's family was really poor. However, Chun Sinny wasn't good at expressing herself, so her words were more straightforward. Yun Jian pursed her lips and wrote 3 words on the paper that Chun Sinny threw at her. I will go. When she was done, she crumpled the paper into a ball and was about to throw it to Chun Sinny when she heard Lu Rongrong, who was sitting not far away, complaining to Teacher Yu openly. Sir, I saw Chun Sinny sneakily tossing a note to Yun Jian just now. It's class time now. Even if everyone's excited about the autumn outing, we can't forget the class rules. We're not allowed to toss notes in class. It was apparent that Lu Rongrong happened to see Chun Sinny tossing the paper ball at Yun Jian just now. Lu Rongrong was shocked. Yun Jian was just looking at her textbook, but she reached out and held the note in her hand. However, she didn't think too much about it. She snorted in her heart. What was so surprising about that? It was just a coincidence. Zhang Xiaofeng kept chasing after Yun Jian, calling her master and asking her to teach him martial arts. However, in Lu Rongrong's eyes, it was just Yun Jian's little trick to pretend to be cool. TSK, who was she trying to show off to? Although Teacher Yu was a newly appointed teacher who had just graduated from university, what she hated the most was the sneaky actions of her students during class. Therefore, when Lu Rongrong said that, Teacher Yu immediately walked over to Yun Jian. It's class time now, and you're passing notes? Do you still want to go to the autumn outing next week? Teacher Yu stood beside Yun Jian and Chun Sinny and said aggressively. Teacher Yu was a very disciplined person. She would never look down on a student or take special care of a student because of their family background. It was precisely because Teacher Yu was very disciplined that as long as a student made a mistake, Teacher Yu would definitely punish them severely when he found out. Teacher Yu had always been very strict when it came to such matters. Teacher, I saw Chun Sinny throw the note to Yun Jian with my own eyes. It must still be on the table now. Lu Rongrong added arrogantly. She had been unhappy with Yun Jian for a long time. However, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sinny were always protecting Yun Jian, so she didn't have a chance to do anything. Today, her chance came today. How dare Chun Sinny and Yun Jian pass notes right under the homeroom teacher's nose? Wasn't this the same as seeking death? Huh. Therefore, Lu Rongrong immediately complained to Teacher Yu. Chun Sini was caught red-handed by Teacher Yu. She hated Lu Rongrong so much that she gritted her teeth, but she was also afraid of being scolded by the teacher. After all, she was usually a good student who didn't get scolded by teachers. Therefore, she lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Teacher Yu. Seeing this, Lu Rongrong became even more arrogant. She looked at Yun Jian provocatively. However, Yun Jian reached out and scratched her head. Then, she looked at Teacher Yu and shrugged. She didn't feel humble at all. We didn't pass any note. Then, she looked at Lu Rongrong and blinked. Student, could it be that you're old and dim-sighted? She actually said that she was presbyopic. Lu Rongrong almost exploded in anger. She ran down from her seat and went to Yun Jian's desk. She started to flip through Yun Jian's textbooks in front of Teacher Yu. Teacher, it's here. I saw it just now. Yun Jian hid the note in the textbooks on her desk. Lu Rongrong said as she flipped through the pile of textbooks on Yun Jian's desk. In the end, even the last book was flipped from cover to cover, but there wasn't a trace of the note in front of everyone's eyes. Lu Rongrong was dumbfounded. When the whole class looked at Lu Rongrong again, their expressions immediately changed. Chapter 115. Where's the note? Lu Rongrong, where did they send the note? Don't tell me, you ate it? Huh? Hee-ha-ha. Lu Rongrong's eyesight must be going bad. Ha-ha. A bunch of students in the class couldn't hold it in anymore and started yelling noisily. Perhaps it was because they had heard the news about the autumn outing, but they hadn't calmed down yet. Now that Lu Rongrong was in trouble, the whole class took the opportunity to make a ruckus. Lu Rongrong's gloomy face instantly turned cold. A haze covered her entire body. She trembled and felt very wronged. She clearly saw Chun Sini pass the note to Yun Jian. How could it be gone just like that? Lu Rongrong, you're framing your classmate for passing notes. What else do you have to say? Teacher Yu frowned with a trace of displeasure on her face. As mentioned earlier, Teacher Yu was a very disciplined person. She especially hated students who did things under her nose. Of course, at the same time, she also disliked students who liked to report fake news and frame their classmates. It could only be said that Lu Rongrong had stepped on Teacher Yu's minefield. Teacher, I really did see the two of them passing notes. Lu Rongrong was unrepentant and even raised her voice to argue. Get out. Stand outside as punishment. Don't attend the 2 periods of self-study in the evening. You're not allowed to enter the classroom during this period. Teacher, you didn't have the patience to listen to Lu Rongrong's nonsense. She pointed at the door and growled at Lu Rongrong. Harmony was the most important thing in the class. Unity and mutual help were a good expression of the class atmosphere. However, Teacher Yu was naturally angry when Lu Rongrong randomly accused Chun Sini and Yun Jian of not paying attention in class. Lu Rongrong was so angry that she was about to explode. However, she didn't dare to do anything in front of the teacher. She shuffled out and glared fiercely at Yun Jian before she left. It was as if she was telling Yun Jian, "This is not over." Yun Jian returned a smile, but it only made Lu Rongrong angrier. Okay, continue with your self-study. Teacher Yu waved her hand and walked away. The first period of self-study was over. Lu Rongrong was still standing outside the door as punishment. Teacher Yu had returned to the office. Many students in the class were active outside the classroom, so there were not many people inside. Zhang Xiaofeng went to Yun Jian while he and Chun Sini looked at Yun Jian with admiration. It was Chun Sini who asked softly, Jian, how did you manage to hide the note from the teacher's eyes? Oh, where did you hide the note? Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Yun Jian expectantly as well. That's teacher, that's S's half. Spreading the note out in front of Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sini, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. It's here. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sini were stunned by Yun Jian's action. It was then that both of them recalled the scene just now. When Yun Jian stood up to refute that she did not pass the note, she had scratched her head. Could it be that at that time, she had hidden the note in her hair bun? At that time, she was actually able to hide the note in her hair in front of the whole class without leaving a trace. How did she do it? Could it be that she knew magic? Master, you're amazing. Zhang Xiaofeng's mouth was agape, and it took him a long time to speak with admiration. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had a small smile on her face without saying anything. As a secret agent in her past life, she was the best at hiding all sorts of dangerous weapons all over her body. She could walk, run, jump, and other movements without being noticed. Back then, she had hidden all sorts of razor blades in her hair, including under her tongue, all over her body. As long as it could be hidden, there would be hidden weapons everywhere. Chapter 116. Haha. Lu Rongrong was so smug just now and wanted to complain about us to the teacher. She's the one who's suffering now. She's asking for trouble and reaping what she sowed. Chun Sini snickered happily and gave Yun Jian a thumbs up. My Jian Jian is the best. Yun Jian squinted and returned a smile. Looking at the lively and adorable Chun Sini, she was reminded of Lu Fian, who was still in Xinjiang town. Lu Fian was the first friend who treated her sincerely since her rebirth. She wondered if Lu Fian was doing well in Xinjiang town now. There was also the basketball team. They would meet again a year later. A week passed quickly. Yun Jian slept in class now. Due to her excellent results, the teachers did not bother with her. Perhaps when she had just been reborn a few days ago, she listened to the teacher in class without being distracted. Now, however, she could no longer listen attentively in class if she had to face the questions that she already knew with a youthful and hot-blooded attitude. When she returned home on Friday, Zhang Xiaofeng did not forget to remind Yun Jian, Master, let's meet at the foot of Longtu Mountain tomorrow night. Remember, it's 6 in the evening. Don't be late. 6 o'clock was the start of the tournament. Yun Jian nodded and left the school gate with a backpack slung over her shoulder. She was not going home. Instead, she was going for a walk in Longmen City suburbs. The evening sky was beautiful. The rosy clouds that reflected from the horizon cast a dim yellow hue over the land, like a girl who covered her face shyly, barely visible. Longmen City was a coastal city, and its city was the closest to the sea. Walking past the rows of downtown, Yun Jian came to a tranquil shore. There was no beach here, but the waves that crashed on the shore gave her a sense of tranquility that came from the bottom of her heart. Yun Jian sat down along the shore and looked up at the yellow sky, deep in thought. Life was so good now. She was carefree and did not have to worry about being assassinated or facing the pressure of death at any moment. She did not know how long such peaceful days could last, but she knew that from tomorrow onwards, there would be another battle. The challenge tournament would be her new starting point in this circle. Smelling the warm and comfortable light of the evening, Yun Jian sat in the same place. She raised her hand and stretched with a faint smile on her face. Suddenly, a fair and flawless hand grasped Yun Jian's wrist. Yun Jian was stunned. Someone was actually able to get close to her without her noticing. She glanced over and saw Si Yi's sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and flawless cheeks. Why are you here? Yun Jian wanted to pull her wrist back from Si Yi's warm hand, but she realized that his strength was not as strong as hers. Guess. Si Yi's clear voice came out from his thin lips. He moved closer to Yun Jian, and his exquisite face was even closer to hers. His breath was almost on Yun Jian's face. Si Yi's large hand was still tightly grasping Yun Jian's small hand. Yun Jian's body shrank back. She had never been so intimate with a man before. She leaned back and tried even harder to break free. Si Yi's large hand held onto her wrist firmly, causing Yun Jian to frown slightly. Let go first. Yun Jian used her other hand to push his large hand away. No. Si Yi tightened his grip. Yun Jian's small hand was very smooth and delicate. It was even better than the tender skin of a newborn baby. Yun Jian pursed her red lips. She used her other hand to hit Si Yi's head in an attempt to free his hand. However, Si Yi did not let go. He held onto her wrist and tilted his head to the side to avoid her. At the same time, Yunjian stretched out her leg to kick Si Yi's leg. However, Yunjian did not expect that Si Yi would not let go. Instead, he pulled her into his embrace, and the two of them rolled around the edge of the cliff. When they stopped, Si Yi had one hand on Yunjian's wrist and the other hand on Yunjian's chest to guard against Yunjian's attack. At this moment, it just so happened to be on Yunjian's chest. On her chest. The two of them were also in a position where one of them was on top of the other. Neither of them had expected this to happen. Chapter 117. It was obvious that Si Yi did not expect things to turn out this way. His earlobes flushed at the corners of his handsome face. Yunjian's body had developed very well. Although she was only 15 years old, her twin peaks were already slender and elegant. He could clearly feel the softness of the young girl's ample bosom. Yunjian's red lips widened. While Si Yi was still in a daze, she smoothly pushed him away and stood up. Her heart skipped a beat, and an unknown feeling spread through her body. Yunjian stood up and walked away. Having lived 2 lives, she was fearless in battle and could kill without being noticed. However, this was the first time she had encountered something like this. She had only taken 2 steps when Si Yi's tall figure blocked Yunjian's path. He tilted his head slightly, revealing his handsome face to Yunjian. His earlobes turned red, and he awkwardly said, "Ahem, sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Yunjian slowly came back to her senses. Her rosy cheeks were unnatural. In the next second, she pretended as though nothing had happened and said to Si Yi, "Why were you looking for me?" After interacting with him for the past few days, Yunjian could confirm that Si Yi was the kind of person who wouldn't visit a temple for no reason. If he didn't have anything to say, he wouldn't even waste his breath talking to you. Si Yi didn't hesitate. He immediately knitted his good-looking brows and moved his thin lips. "Come with me." Yunjian nodded. Thus, Yunjian followed Si Yi to the side of the road. Si Yi's personal Lamborghini was parked by the side of the road. Yunjian sat in the passenger seat of the Lamborghini. Si Yi took out a box from the back seat and handed it to Yunjian. Yunjian's eyes widened when she saw it, and her eyelashes fluttered twice. A sandalwood box. Si Yi narrowed his eyes as he observed Yunjian's every move. "You know about it?" Si Yi asked suspiciously when he saw something strange in Yunjian's eyes. Yunjian was stunned. She turned her head and returned the sandalwood box to Si Yi. She pretended as though this was the first time she had seen it. "What do I know? I just thought that this box was very pretty. I didn't react in time. This box must be very expensive, right?" She had almost exposed her emotions. The sandalwood box's influence on her was too great. This box was the cause of her rebirth. It was also the indirect cause of her brother's death. That was why she nearly lost control of her emotions when she saw the sandalwood box just now. But why did Si Yi ask her such a question? Could it be that he could tell that she knew something about the sandalwood's way? Si Yi narrowed his eyes. He stared at Yunjian for a while before he finally looked away and pretended not to notice anything. To prevent Si Yi from getting suspicious, Yunjian asked him, "Hey, why are you asking me this?" Nothing." Si Yi's eyes lit up. He pursed his lips and started the sports car. "I'll send you back." They didn't say a word until they reached home and returned to their respective rooms. However, it was obvious that both of them had their own thoughts. The next day was Saturday. As evening approached, Yunjian left home on time after she tidied herself up. At 6 o'clock, she arrived at the foot of Longtu Mountain. From afar, she saw Zhang Xiaofeng standing on the spot and waving at her. When he saw Yunjian walking over, Zhang Xiaofeng waved at her and shouted at Yunjian, "Master, over here." Yunjian stood there and nodded at Zhang Xiaofeng and Chinsini. It was only then that she saw a group of boys and girls standing beside Zhang Xiaofeng. They were all around their age. "This is my master, Yunjian." Zhang Xiaofeng proudly introduced Yunjian to the group of boys and girls. "Xiaofeng, are you kidding me? This girl is your master? Do you really want to have her as your master? You're a man, yet you want to have a girl as your master? I feel embarrassed for you." a self-proclaimed fashionable boy with dyed blonde hair, standing beside Zhang Xiaofeng, said. This person was Zhang Xiaofeng's friend from his circle. Chapter 118. After the boy with dyed blonde hair opened his mouth, the group of boys and girls around him laughed. They were obviously disdainful of Zhang Xiaofeng, a rich young master, having a weak little girl like Yun Jian as his master. Shoo shoo shoo. Guhong, what do you know? My master is not an ordinary person. Zhang Xiaofeng waved his hand at Guhong and snorted. He was still on Yun Jian's side. Guhong. Yun Jian did not say anything. Even if this group of people were talking about her, she felt that there was no need to speak about unimportant things. But when she heard the two words, Guhong, she could not help but take another look at the boy with dyed blonde hair called Guhong. Could it really be such a coincidence? This Guhong in front of her was Mayor Gu's grandson? Suddenly, Yin Jian remembered Mayor Gu's warning that if she met his grandson, she must not be soft-hearted and teach him a lesson on his behalf. Combined with the fact that this Guhong had dyed blonde hair and was wearing a pair of ripped pants and a flowery dress that he thought was fashionable, Yin Jian felt relieved. So even Mayor Gu himself could not control his grandson's rebellious behavior? Boys and girls at this age had a very strong, rebellious mentality. Yin Jian had lived in a dangerous environment in her previous life. Her only wish every day was to live until the next day. In that kind of environment, she had never experienced the rebellious period that normal children should have. Your master is not a normal person. How could she be different? She doesn't have any more arms or legs than we do. What can she teach you? Guhong did not have any bad intentions. He just wanted to show off in front of the girls and show off his power. When Zhang Xiaofeng heard Guhong slandering his master, he immediately went against his brother, Guhong. The two of them clicked their tongues and only stopped arguing when it was almost time for the competition to start. The group of people rushed up the mountain noisily. As they rushed up the mountain, they could still hear Gu Heng's arrogant voice. My grandpa has some connections with Longmen City's mafia boss. I heard that the mafia boss has sent a very young woman to fight against a foreigner who almost made it into the international tournament tonight. Tonight's tournament will be very exciting. Guhong was at the front of the group, talking incessantly along the way. This group of boys and girls just happened to like listening to him talk about these things, and all of them listened with great interest. A very young woman fighting such a skilled foreigner. Doesn't that mean our mafia boss of Longmen City will lose for sure? A girl asked timidly. Hearing that someone had agreed with him, Guhong became even more pleased with himself. He spread the news that he had heard through the grapevine with a sense of superiority. It was as if he was the organizer and witness of this competition. Yin Jian, on the other hand, was slowly walking up the mountain side by side with Zhang Xiaofeng and Qinsini. Guhong and the rest did not know that Snake, Lizard, who was supposed to fight the foreigner who was rumored to be very skilled, had already left. The one who replaced her was Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian did not feel anything when she heard Guhong and the rest chatter. She merely followed the group quietly and came to the mountainside of Longmen Mountain. We're here. It's here. Zhang Xiaofeng could not help shouting excitedly. Right in front of them, a circular building that looked like a huge football field came into view. Chapter 119. The only arena in Longmen City so far was set up here. Why was Longmen City's Longtu Mountain famous? This huge arena must have played a huge role. People who came to Longtu Mountain to train their bodies would definitely come to the arena to take a look and rest for a while at the mountainside. Of course, Longtu Mountain's scenery was beautiful and had a hint of nature to it. It was a pity that it was evening and they were at the mountainside of Longtu Mountain, so Yun Jian did not get to see the beautiful scenery. Instead, she saw many common flowers and plants along the way. Let's go in. It was not Zhang Xiaofeng's first time here, so he took the lead with a chuckle. Boys like Zhang Xiaofeng, who paid special attention to fights, often came to watch the arena matches. When they came to watch the matches, they did not forget to call the girls over. His purpose was naturally to show off in front of the girls and say a few professional words to show that he was knowledgeable. As expected, Yun Jian could hear Gu Heng's bragging and the girls' admiring voices along the way. Yun Jian merely rolled her eyes and smiled helplessly. There was a group of men standing at the entrance of the arena today, all of them dressed in black and looking solemn. This group of people gave off the feeling of gangsters in movies, making people shudder at the sight of them. Zhang Xiaofeng led the way to the arena, but he was stopped before he could enter. Everyone knew that today's challenge tournament was actually a bet between a mafia boss and a foreigner. Therefore, not just anyone could come and watch the battle. Xiaofeng, move aside. I'll do it. Guang finally had some practical use now. He walked up and looked at the group of men in front of him with heavy expressions. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and gave them a sideways glance. In an instant, he regained his arrogance and said to them, I'm Mayor Gu's grandson. We're here to watch today's tournament. At Gu Heng's words, the wild-looking man in front of him stepped aside. The group entered the arena smoothly. Gu Heng breathed a sigh of relief and felt smug again. Wow, Gu Heng, you're amazing. You can even bring us in. I thought we wouldn't be able to come in. The girls began to boast about Gu Heng again. It made Gu Heng feel smug again. Jian, let's sit over there. Chun Sini held Yun Jian's hand and walked to an empty spectator stand. There were not many people on the spectator stand at the arena. There were people blocking the entrance. The bet today was not for ordinary people, but for the mafia boss and a foreigner, so ordinary people could not enter. There was no lack of spectator stands, of course. Yun Jian and Chun Sini sat on the spectator stand. On the other side, Gu Heng was still busy bragging. He's a person, a mafia boss's man. Come. Host. Oh, that's amazing. The crowd gasped again when they heard that. At that moment, the crowd saw the beautiful silhouette who was sitting next to Chun Sini on the spectator stand suddenly walk down the spectator stand. She walked straight to the middle-aged man whom they were talking about, the man whom the mafia boss valued the most. Hey, why is she going to that person? Does she know the mafia boss's underling? Chapter 120. Before Snake. Lizard left, she said goodbye to Su Zetian. She directly asked Yun Jian to replace her in tonight's challenge tournament. When Su Zetian first heard the news, he was completely stunned, but in the end he acquiesced. After all, he had no right to refuse the decision made by the Kosha mercenary superiors. It was already good enough that the superiors sent someone to help him. Thinking about it from another angle, what if this thin and weak girl really had the ability to win for him? After all, the people sent by the Kosha mercenaries were not to be underestimated. Their strength was extraordinary. Yun Jian had met Su Zetian's subordinate before, so he naturally recognized her. Su Zetian's subordinate was called Duan Lei. Duan Lei was tall and strong, with a strong physique. He was the second in command of Su Zetian's Dragon Head gang. Miss Yun. Duan Lei respectfully greeted Yun Jian the moment he saw her. Although Yun Jian was very young, Duan Lei was still very respectful to her. After all, if Yun Jian dared to participate in today's challenge tournament, it meant that she definitely had some skills. Yun Jian nodded indifferently, then said to Duan Lei in a low voice, I'm with my friend. I'll come over when the challenge tournament starts. After that, Yun Jian turned and walked away. She only came over to greet him and tell him that she had arrived. On the other side, Gu Heng and the others looked at Yun Jian in surprise. They didn't hear the conversation between Yun Jian and Duan Lei, but even though they were far away, it wasn't difficult to see that Duan Lei was very respectful to Yun Jian. You know him? He's the underworld boss's underling. Gu Heng took over everyone's confusion and asked with a sideways glance. Yun Jian pursed her red lips and smiled without saying anything. She walked past the group of unreasonable people and walked towards Chun Sini. TCH, why is this girl acting so mysterious? Does she really think that she's a powerful person? Does she think that she's more powerful than the underworld boss? What kind of person is this? When a girl saw that Yun Jian had ignored Gu Heng and walked away, she couldn't help but shout loudly in order to flatter Gu Heng. She was secretly criticizing Yunjian in her heart. When this girl was criticizing Yunjian, her voice was especially loud, as if she was afraid that Yunjian couldn't hear her. This shout was so loud that even Duan Lei, who was standing far away, could hear it. He couldn't help but frown, but he didn't say anything. The girl muttered a few words about Yunjian, but when she saw that Yunjian was too lazy to pay attention to her, she stopped talking. Yunjian had already returned to the seat between Qinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng and smiled at them. Gu Hong and the others also found a place to sit down, their faces brimming with youthful passion. It was obvious that today's challenge match was something that they were looking forward to, longing for, or even yearning for. After waiting for a long time, Yunjian finally saw Duan Lei waving at her from afar. Understanding that the match was about to begin, she turned to Qinsini and said, "I'm going to the washroom." She did not say that she was going up to fight. Although Qinsini and the others would find out about it sooner or later, they would not believe her if she said it now. She might as well let them see it for themselves. The match is about to start. Jian, go quickly. Oh, right. Do you know where the washroom is? Do you want me to bring you there? Qinsini offered kindly. No need. Yunjian shook her head with a grin, bearing a row of neat and pearly white teeth. She then hopped down from the spectator stand that wasn't too high and went around the ring to the backstage after a few steps. Chapter 121. As expected, the match began a few minutes later. Qinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng looked anxious. Both of them were wondering why Yunjian had not returned after going to the washroom for so long. The match was about to begin. At this moment, a tall and sturdy man walked out from the back of the arena. This man was bare-chested, and his broad shoulders and muscular arms seemed to be overbearing and powerful. He was at least 9 meters tall. If an ordinary person were to stand next to this man, it would be the difference between a giant and a dwarf. This man was one of the protagonists of the match, the foreigner who had made a bet with Su Zetian. His name was Shiniji. Shiniji was from Country Y and was also a boxer in the country's national team. He was so strong that he almost made it into the international tournament. Of course, it was almost. Even so, someone like Shiniji could cause a stir in Longmen City, even if he almost made it into the international tournament. Therefore, when Shiniji entered the ring, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone knew that it was a young woman who was representing Country Z to fight Shiniji today. Looking at Shiniji's physique, did Country Z still have a chance of winning? Unless the woman was even more muscular than Shiniji. Not only did the crowd think so, even Zhang Xiaofeng, Gu Hong, and the rest thought so. Master, why did she go to the washroom for so long? Such an exciting match is about to begin. Cinny, why don't you go to the washroom and look for her? Zhang Xiaofeng turned to Qinsini, looking anxious. In spite of it, Zhang Xiaofeng saw Qinsini looking at the ring with exaggerated shock. All of a sudden, the surroundings fell silent. It was as if the sound was cut off midway. The place was so quiet that one could hear the sound of a pin dropping to the ground. Zhang Xiaofeng frowned suspiciously as he followed Qinsini's gaze to the ring. He seemed to have seen something as his pupils contracted and his eyes widened while his mouth formed an O shape. Looking at Gu Hong and the others, everyone present could only use one expression to describe them: shock. Following the crowd's gaze, they saw Yunjian's long black hair swaying as she walked out from the backstage of the arena with light steps. She curled her lips and maintained a slightly leisurely expression from the beginning to the end. After a moment of dead silence, the atmosphere reached its climax. Oh my God, it was a little girl. Could it be that the person who's going to fight with that foreigner is just a little girl? Oh my God, did I see it wrong? The mafia boss actually let a little girl fight with a foreigner. Isn't he afraid of losing the bet? Look at the difference in height between the little girl and the foreigner. Do we really have a chance of winning this match? After a moment of silence, a storm of chatter resounded throughout the hall. Zhang Xiaofeng stood up from his seat in shock. He pointed at the girl with a faint smile on her face on the stage and gulped. He said in a half-surprised and half-delighted manner, "It's Master." Its master. Could she be the woman Gu Hong was talking about who's going to fight with that foreigner tonight? Zhang Xiaofeng had mixed feelings at that moment. He was worried for Yun Jian, but at the same time, he felt a deep sense of pride because he was Yun Jian's disciple. In contrast, Gu Hong and the others looked like they had been constipated for a few days. Their faces were dark. Looking at the girl with a faint smile on her face on the stage, Gu Hong gulped again. So all the bragging that he had done to the crowd just now was like showing off in front of a big shot? In the arena, Shiniji looked at Yun Jian's appearance. He put away the same shock in his heart and looked at Yun Jian with disdain. He then mocked Yun Jian in broken Chinese. Is there no one else in Country Z? How dare you let a little girl fight with me? How can a girl with skinny arms and legs like her fight in the arena? Su Zetian is playing with me. Shiniji's arrogant and egotistical tone spread throughout the hall. Seeing this, everyone present was filled with anger as they looked at Shiniji. Any native would lose their cool in the face of a foreigner's mockery. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.